WPUC HD2 Laverne.
NASCAR is back. Kyle Larson returns to Nashville Superspeedway a winner.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR.
ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville
A
app.
Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 1025. The game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. I am on remote on this beautiful Fireball Hot Take Friday, or at least it's beautiful where I'm at. Caroline, is it beautiful where you're at?
It is absolutely beautiful here.
Okay, it is beautiful in the Hillside Medical Game Studios where Caroline is hanging out. So I don't know about you guys. Who watched Combine last night? Did you watch Combine last night?
I did watch the Combine last night.
Did you? Ian, did you watch Combine? I
did.
know Ian did not watch Combine last night. Ian, did you watch Combine last night?
I did not.
Ian's got bigger things going on.
No. Let me ask you this question. If Floyd had a baby, would he have still watched the Combine?
Well, Ian
I
is
think
not
we know
the
the
general
answer is
manager of a
yes.
football team.
I mean, I'll be honest. You know, if it's, I watch hockey. I'll watch any hockey. I watch all the hockey games.
I know. That's why I know Ian didn't watch Combine, because I knew he had something better to watch for him, whatever it was. So I watched Combine last night, and there are two main takeaways, and I think they both have to do with the Titans. The first takeaway for me is them wide receivers were freaking flying. And I'm not going to be one of these people like Joe Rexroad when he loses Jared versus Joe, and he's like convinced that it's rigged against him. Like, I'm not one of those kind of people. Like, when my team loses, I don't think it's the referee's fault. I think it's usually my team's fault. But I got to say that I feel personally like there's a chance that those clocks might have been cooked a little bit. Like, when you go, like, you see the baseball all-star game and guys who throw like 96 are all of a sudden throwing 100 in the all-star game. I'm like, yeah, they're probably juicing that gun up a little bit. I have to believe, right? Like, I understand players are bigger, faster, stronger, but that kid from Baylor yesterday, Tyquan Woods, I've never heard of this guy. I never heard of this guy in my life. And I watched him run the 40. I'm like, he's going to the first round. Like, that was those wide receivers. And we know this, the Tennessee Titans need wide receivers and they need speed. So when you look at all the mock drafts, I hate to break it to you, but Chris Olave, who ran, what was it, a 4.32 or something yesterday?
Ran a 4.26 unofficial.
A 4.26. Olave is getting moved from like that Titans range right there in the 20s. He's getting moved to like 13. He's getting moved to like 8 on all the mock drafts and everything else. Because, again, that dude can run. And then the kid from Baylor could run. All these guys, except I was surprised. Jahan Dodson, who Mel Kiper Jr. mocked to the Titans in the first round, he did not run very well. And Treylon Burks from Arkansas did not run very well. And I was keeping my eye on Treylon Burks because when he measured, and Treylon Burks was a great player at Arkansas. I mean, a great wide receiver. And when he measured, it's almost identical to A.J. Brown. And so I was like, okay. He measures like A.J. Brown. He's built like A.J. Brown. He played in the SEC like A.J. Brown. And then when he ran, A.J. ran like a 4.49 or a 4.39 or something like that, because I looked it up this morning, and Burks ran a 4.55. That's difference. So I think you're going to see Treylon Burks maybe move out of kind of that top 10, top 15 and move back towards the Titans, and you're going to see Chris Olave and some of these other guys that ran freaking unbelievable times, and you're going to see them move up. So we know wide receiver and speed at wide receiver has been something the Titans. I can't remember the last time the Titans had a true burner at wide receiver, like a legitimate downfield threat that could play on every down and was not some fake guy who stunk like Taywan Taylor. Now, the other part of it that I want to get to last night, how about them quarterbacks? What did we think of the quarterbacks last night, Miss Fenton?
Malik Willis.
Bad boy.
Damn good. Malik Willis looked really, really good.
So that was my takeaway too. And I told you all, I have no opinions on these quarterbacks because I don't evaluate quarterbacks. I've never evaluated quarterbacks. I don't know how to, I don't know how to look at a quarterback. I can tell you a quarterback who's bad. Like, I can watch a guy play and be like, oh, that guy stinks. But as far, and those are guys that, wouldn't even get drafted in the first round. But as far as the Liberty quarterback, who I have never seen play on like a in-depth basis, like I've never sat down to watch Liberty, to watch this guy play, like all these general managers and coaches and everything else. Like, I'm watching Malik Willis throw yesterday. And I talked to a college coach. We'll get to that in a little bit. But he's got no pressure, and he knows where the receiver's going, and there's not even a DB on the receiver, but he's just throwing the ball. And he's chucking the ball down the field, and it just looks so beautiful watching the ball come out of his hands. I mean, it's like watching a big-armed quarterback, and he's got decent hand size, which I do think is important, unlike Kenny Pickett. And I have determined this. Again, I don't care what Mel Kiper Jr. ranks a guy at. In his pre-combine mock draft in 2017, he didn't have Patrick Mahomes in the first round. In his pre-combine mock draft in 2018, he didn't have Lamar Jackson in the first round. Both guys have won a league MVP. So I don't care what they're ranked at. I don't care what the guys on TV say. First of all, you watch NFL Network for their coverage. Those guys they applaud everybody. Everybody's going to be great watching NFL Network. But I saw two things that stood out at quarterback. One, Malik Willis is going in the top 15, and he might be going in the top 10. I mean, everybody's got him mocked at the Steelers because Tomlin was obsessed with him at the Senior Bowl. I'm telling you, this guy is going in the top 15. This guy may go in the top 10. We live in a world where Daniel Jones, who was not a great prospect coming out, Daniel Jones went 6th overall. So to sit there and say, well, you can't take a combine performance and say because of the combine performance that the guy, I'm telling you, everybody needs a quarterback. Carolina needs a quarterback. Washington needs a quarterback. All these, Denver's going to need a quarterback if Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to go there. These guys are going to shoot up the draft board, which takes me to my second observation at quarterback. And that is the guy that TD on our show yesterday, I asked him at the combine, I said, of all these quarterbacks who's out there, who is the most like a Mike Vrabel, John Robinson guy? Here's what TD said.
It's easily Desmond Ridder, in my opinion. And that's something that I thought of before, and it just kind of got affirmed now. You know what I mean? So that would be the one that I would say. Okay.
Desmond Ridder, TD says he's a Robinson Vrabel guy. I thought Ridder was outstanding last night. Again, no pressure, no pass rush coming to get him. No, I thought Ridder made a lot of great throws yesterday. He ran a 4.52. And I'm going to tell you, Vrabel said earlier this week, mobility at the quarterback position is important to him, which kind of makes me rule out Carson Strong out of Nevada. Now, the Titans may go wide receiver or something else in the first round and be picking in the third round for a quarterback, and a quarterback in the third round, Carson Strong might be there. Malik Willis, again, I think he's going top 15, top 10. But Desmond Ridder, after his performance at the Combine yesterday, I'm not convinced he's going to be there if you try to wait this out. So the Titans are in a tough predicament, and it's one we've kind of been talking about throughout the week, which is, okay, everyone says they got to go wide receiver. Last night, the wide receivers proved, unless the clock was cooked, the wide receivers proved they can fly. And the Titans need speed at wide receiver. And they don't need to wait like they did over the last couple of years where they didn't take a receiver in 2020 in a loaded class, and they took Des Fitzpatrick in the 4th round. When we're sitting there and we see guys like Elijah Moore on the board, or Amari Rodgers on the board, or T. Higgins on the board, or Michael Pittman Jr. on the board, and we're like, you got to pick wide receiver. They got to go. Wide receivers a big need, especially speed, and you can't get speed. Veteran speed receivers, unless it's Deshaun Jackson, who never slows down, they don't exist. But then there's quarterback, and there's the future of quarterback, And Ritter looked the part last night, and Ritter ran the part in the 40-yard dash last night, and Ritter has played for a coach that we know Vrabel is comfortable with in Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. And you heard TD say that Ritter is the guy who is at most like a John Robinson, Mike Vrabel type of guy. So now here's the conundrum for the Titans. Do you get enamored with the speed at wide receiver and say, oh, my God, imagine A.J. Brown on one side and telling Ryan Tannehill, hey, chuck it long to that guy on the other side? Or do you go with the quarterback? Because there's a chance Ritter's still going to be there at 26, where you wouldn't have to trade up to get him, but you could have your quarterback for the future and have him sit on the bench. Again, you can't coach 4.25 speed. And you have him sit on the bench for a year, and you have Vrabel and Downing and Tim Kelly and all these other coaches that they brought in to coach quarterbacks, since I guess the quarterback coach can't coach quarterbacks, have them all coach this and Tannehill and have them coach Ritter up. And then maybe that gives him the best chance to succeed. And that's an open question for everybody, because that's what I thought last night watching the combine. Was I looked at, first of all, if the Titans could get Malik Willis, oh my God, and sit him on the bench for a year. Oh goodness, I would love it. But they're not. Because Malik Willis, I think Malik Willis is quarterback one. To me, I think he's first quarterback off the board. And I think he's probably going top 10 after last night. But Ritter proved last night, again, it's the combine, it's throwing, but he checked off a lot of the boxes. And so what do? If he's a guy that's a Vrabel and Robinson guy, and he's a guy that you think could come in right away and sit on the bench and help the Titans down the road, as the backup to Tannehill, and then eventually become the guy, don't you have to take him? I don't know. So this is my question to the fans, which is, if it's Ritter at 26, or if it's one of these speed demon wide receivers that we saw last night, what do you do? 615-737-1025 is that phone number. 615-737-1025. So here's what I'm gonna ask Caroline. I'm gonna ask Ian. I'll give you my thoughts, but I also want your thoughts. Again, 615-737-1025. You're sitting there at 26. These speed hawks are available at wide receiver. Desmond Ritter is available out of Cincinnati. What do? What should the Titans do? What should their focus be? We'll get to that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. And coming up next, what they said about Desmond Ritter's performance last night and why this is definitely something that we all have to keep our eyes open to. We'll discuss that next. Stillman and Company, Fireball Hot Take Friday. Caroline's here. Ian's here. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Friday at 8:30 on Robbie and Rexo, we talk with the legend, Terry Chris, about all things Nashville Predators, presented by Copper Branch on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Proud to announce that they have won the Top Gun Award for the best Pella sales organization in the U.S. They have the best culture, best customer satisfaction, and best growth in the business. To celebrate, Pella is offering their amazingly affordable products at 0% financing with no payments for 12 months. Do you need new doors or windows? I suggest you shop with Nashville's Pella experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
Tune in to ESPN 102.5 The Game every Tuesday afternoon at 4:30 for ESPN's Trevor Maddich joining me, Jared Stillman, on Stillman and Company as we dive deep into the college football world and all the latest from the SEC. It's all brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters.
If you missed the latest edition of Preds Insiders,
I thought last week was an awesome week for Nashville Predators hockey. I thought it was an awesome week for hockey in this town. And sure, you would have liked them to go 3 for 3 and get all 6 of those points and really put an exclamation point on the week. But even without that, you win 2 out of the 3 games. You get 4 out of the 6 possible points. You win the Western Conference matchup against Dallas, which is more important than the loss to an Eastern Conference team in Tampa Bay anyway. I think a lot went really well for the Predators last week. And it was one of those things, too, where you look around and say, I think we learned some things about the hockey team. I mean, it was not an easy week last week for the Predators. It was a fun week. It was a memorable week. It was all those things, but by no means was it easy. You start off last Tuesday going on the road against Florida. The Preds are down 3 separate times in that game. They come back to tie it, and then you win the game in regulation.
search Preds Insiders today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition releases every Monday at 6 on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you. Whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan, they're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because with a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the twos. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Those things, how we evaluate quarterbacks, isn't going to change as far as the accuracy, the decision-making, the ability to take care of the football, their toughness, leadership. And I think you have to realistically look at mobility and where that is in this league. Our quarterbacks are moving more as you look at the numbers. There's number 1 in scramble plays this year by quarterbacks. So, we understand how difficult that is defensively. We've seen Ryan, we've seen other quarterbacks make an impact in the game with their legs. So I do think that's where the game is, and not to say that, a pocket quarterback isn't going to be who we would take, but I just know, what's out there and what's available.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel talking about looking at quarterbacks. And when Vrabel says, hey, mobility is really important, extending plays, even what we do with Ryan, it's really important. That's what I think we should do. And then goes, not to say we wouldn't take a pocket quarterback who stands back in there, but isn't he kind of saying that by saying that?
Essentially. I mean, what I have learned with the Titans is whatever they say first is probably really what they mean. And then whenever they walk things back, that's just them kind of trying to cover their tracks.
That is the Titans.
Yep.
Now, Desmond Ridder last night ran a 4.52, which is freakish for a quarterback. His hand size, biggest hands at the combine. And that does matter to me. I mean, hand size matters, which we'll get into in a little bit. But at 26 overall, again, he played for Vrabel's. I believe Fickle was the best man in Vrabel's wedding. It may be the other way around. It may be that Vrabel was the best man in Fickle. I don't know.
Either way, they're besties.
He's coach. Ridder knows the Titans liked him because he went down to the Senior Bowl and he said he models his game after Deshaun Watson and Ryan Tannehill. And nobody in their right mind is modeling their game. Like, no one is looking at their no one's in the backyard, pretending to play basketball to model their game after C.J. McCollum, right? Like, they're not doing that. And so it's obvious. I think there's some interest there. TD says best fit of a John Robinson, Mike Vrabel guy. This yesterday was the performance. The question was, could they move down into the second round and wait for Ridder if that was the guy they liked? Ridder's performance was good last night. This is what Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network said.
The quarterbacks we've been talking about, Desmond Ridder hasn't really been towards the top of that list, but he was outstanding today. It started with him running extremely fast. We showed him simulcast right next to Marcus Mariota to give you an idea of what type of an athlete he is. And footwork-wise, smooth. The ball jumped out of his hand. To me, he was very intriguing with what he displayed today on the field here in Indianapolis. I think grabbed the attention of a lot of people on the heels of what I was told were solid interviews with teams. As a 3-time captain, is impressive guy.
So I start with that question, which was, very impressive workout. He was a fringe first-round guy coming in. This is quarterback, so if you think he's your guy, you will use a first-round pick on him, even if he's not technically a first-round talent. You're not picking at the beginning of the first round. Tannehill's not getting any younger, but those receivers last night were flying. So I asked the question, do you buy the receivers or do you think long-term for the quarterback, especially with the performance Ridder had last night? Caroline, you go first.
So my philosophy for the Titans draft is in the first round, you need to find someone who can help you right now. But my one exception to that rule is quarterback. I mean, it's the most important position on the field. So if the Titans think that Desmond Ridder is that guy, they see what Desmond Ridder can do and say that's the future of our franchise. Not let's take this guy because he's good enough and we feel like he's a feasible option and he's at least depth of the quarterback position. We don't necessarily think he's going to be our future, but he's good enough for now. No. You don't take that guy in the first round. But if the Titans think that Desmond Ridder could be their future and say, I don't know if they do or not, then you have to take him because he's not going to be there in the third round. The Titans don't have a second round pick. Then you got to take him. But if they don't think that he is their future, if they're not obsessed with him, if they don't see him and say that is our guy once we move on from Tannehill, then you go wide receiver or you go offensive lineman or you fulfill a need with a player that can play right now.
Okay, Ian, would you, if you thought he was a future quarterback at 26, would you take him to sit on the bench and pass up these burners?
If he's really that high on your board, I think you have to. I mean, I know.
Well, what if you've got one of these fast receivers ahead of him? Like, again, the kid from Baylor, who I've never heard of. TD said he had 10 touchdowns last year. Like, and he broke the record for fastest time in the 40. And if he's sitting there at 26, and we all know what a deep threat like that would do for the Titans.
No, there's no doubt they need some help at wide receiver, especially some speed. And we've been talking about that. I don't know, how long have we been talking about trying to get speed on the Titans wide receiver core? Multiple years. Mm-hmm. It's been a while. And, I mean, I would, but, I mean, if the quarterback's, I would say the quarterback's the most important position. So, I mean, if you have a quarterback that's really highly ranked on your board, even though you don't necessarily need the quarterback this year, I think you still have to take him because you just need to pile up as many good assets and good players as you can. And if he's that good on your board in the most important position, I think you take him.
You know what's crazy? I just looked up Kendall Wright's 40-yard dash time because this is kind of where the Titans picked Kendall Wright in the past in the first round. Kendall Wright was a 4.61. Oh, oof. Goodness. This kid's what was it? 4.24? What the kid from Baylor ran yesterday? Unbelievable.
I don't think
it says 4.28 as the official.
4.28.
4.28. That is Chris Johnson level speed. And we saw that. I'll say this. The Titans had two running backs. They had Travis Henry, I believe. No. Excuse me. Travis Henry's gone. They had Lindale White, who was a 1,000-yard rusher. And they had Chris Henry, who they took in the second round. And they drafted Chris Johnson in 2008 because of that speed, because of the 40 time he ran at the combine. I'm like, well, you already got wide receiver or running backs. What are you doing? And the first carry that I saw him take against the Rams in the first preseason game, Chris Johnson went like up the middle for 65 yards and a touchdown. I was like, I got it. All right. I understand. And they need speed. But Ridder, this is what I would need to know if I was Vrabel. If Luke Fickell, because the combine workout was good enough for a first-round quarterback yesterday. If Luke Fickell told me he's the guy, then I'd do it. Then I'd say, you know what? Circle Ridder. And I go into that Thursday night looking to find a way to get my guy at quarterback to back up Tannehill, to sit on the bench for a year, to learn from him and learn from all these offensive coaches they've got, and to learn from Vrabel and put him on the bench and then go for it, even though you're going to hurt the 2022 team because you could have some stud wide receiver out there and you don't have a second round pick, but that's what I would do. Because quarterback, if you think this kid's a quarterback at his speed, and again, if Luke Fickell, a guy you know and trust and knows what you're looking for, Fickell brought Vrabel into coaching at Ohio State. And like, if Fickell believes in him, then I think I would have to do it because you're not going to be able to get this good of a scouting report. You heard Daniel Jeremiah say the interviews are going well for Desmond Ridder. I am kind of circling Ridder because I just know they ain't going to get Malik Willis. If you get Malik Willis, I'm sorry. What I saw yesterday, I saw a rocket launcher arm. I saw great athleticism. I'm like, dude, Malik Willis looks like a bad boy. I promised phones. It's a Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Titans of Truth. Chris is going to get us started today. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Go ahead, Chris.
Jerry, Caroline, how y'all doing?
Good.
Okay. Got a two-parter for you on this one. First, I'm going to say this. I agree with Ian that we need speed, more speed. We need to get a receiver because speed and depth at wide receiver has been a huge issue, and I myself have been banging on the table for a wide receiver for quite some time, and we probably need to get two of them. First round and probably somewhere in maybe the third or fourth round, because I think there is going to be a run, especially with how well some of these guys did. Calvin Austin from Memphis needs to be one of those guys, maybe in like the third or fourth round. But what I want to ask you, Jared, with Desmond Ridder, I think he could be a good trade bargain to trade down. But if you're going to go with Desmond Ridder, you better think in your mind, if Tannehill stinks it up with the interceptions like he did this past year,
absolutely.
Are you ready to hand the baton to Desmond Ridder before he's ready? Because he's going to become one of the most popular guys on the team. Because if Tannehill stinks it up, the fans are going to clamor for Ridder. Put in the Riddler. Put in the Riddler. Put in the Ridder. Put him in. And if you go to Ridder, there is no turning back.
I agree, Chris, and I appreciate your call. Here's the thing I would say about this. This is where Vrabel comes into play. Like, if the Titans decide, and I wasn't there, obviously, in Houston, Texas, when they decided to take Steve McNair. But they came out right away, and they said Steve McNair will be on the bench for 2 years. And now they ended up moving the team, so I'm not sure how popular that decision was or wasn't with the people of Houston. But if Vrabel comes out, let's say they draft Ridder, Vrabel says Ryan is the quarterback and Tannehill struggles, I think Vrabel has to be the one that continues to say Ryan is the quarterback, that Ridder's not ready. And he's got to be able to handle that both with the fans and internally with the team. Because I agree with Chris that if Ryan Tannehill struggles and Desmond Ridder is the first pick of the Titans and he's sitting there with a clipboard on the bench, the fans are going to be screaming for Desmond Ridder. I mean, this show is probably going to be screaming for Desmond Ridder if that's the case. And that's where Vrabel, and it's not popular. Like, Matt Nagy got raked over the coals when he was telling people this year that Justin Fields wasn't ready. But Justin Fields wasn't ready. And so if Vrabel feels that way, look, he's the coach of the year. He's got a lot of respect and a new contract. And I would say that's where it's of Vrabel's responsibility to make sure that everybody knows, hey, like, they're not ready to roll with the kid like that. Like, this is Tannehill's job. And as much as we might complain about it, which we will, I think that's what Vrabel's job is. 615-737-1025. More of your phones. Again, I was wowed by Malik Willis. I don't think he's going to be there. I was wowed by Desmond Ridder. And to hear TD say, hey, that's what he thinks of the most Robinson Vrabel-like guy, I thought that was pretty impressive. And also, there is one quarterback that I got to tell you, everybody else doesn't have a problem with. I do. We'll explain next. Stillman and Company, right here. Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 6, we go behind the glass with current and former Predators players, along with coaches and broadcasters for Smashville Live.
Yost, Hal, and I were just talking about last night's game. It was a big game for us.
Presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine on Smashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Music City. Start a profitable new chapter of your life and be your own boss with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. In fact, no matter where you are, from Green Hills to the Gulch to down in Franklin, if you can hear my voice, there's an affordable, profitable Little Guys franchise opportunity nearby. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Join a team with 30 plus years of growth and good times. Learn more at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com. And then make that call.
Hey Nashville, it's Jared, and there's a new go-to for home furnishing. Social Furniture on the West Side is independently home-owned furniture store in Nashville. Forget the big box store. Shop local, shop social. They have all the best brand mattresses, sofas, recliners, love seats, sectionals, coffee tables, and more with no waiting. They will deliver it the same day. That's with everything at Social Furniture. Enjoy new furniture now with no waiting. Shop local, shop social. 5412 Charlotte Avenue near White Bridge Road, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
An effective defense often hinges on sophisticated strategies relating to income tax projections, business valuations, spousal support claims. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Contact the domestic litigation firm of Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Nashville area attorneys, a partner men can count on. 615-457-8700. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com. Offices in Nashville, Franklin, Murfreesboro, and Gallatin. Cordell & Cordell, 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
At Copper Branch, they live life to the fullest. Food is your energy and your life. Located in the heart of downtown Nashville, their goal is to serve you, your friends, and family quality, great-tasting, plant-based power foods. Visit Copper Branch at 601 Church Street for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with convenient and validated parking during library hours, and download their app for curbside pickup. Or come out for songwriter and live music nights several times throughout the week to empower, energize, and feel your best. Visit Copper Branch today.
Nashville's Best Deals is a great place to score last-minute deals. Right now at theGameNashville.com/deals. Get everything from half off to the Woodhouse Spa, half off dining at the Mainstay and Hard Rock Cafe, also half off to Brooklyn Bowl, plus $50 free with a purchase of $100 in downtown dollars. Check out all these deals while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals. That's theGameNashville.com/deals.
Saturday, ahead to Mullen to the rim. MTSU wraps up their regular season at Old Dominion. Coverage begins at 12:30
on ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
No, I think that Brian's opposite. I've gone on record with that. You see all of the news that's on all of the speculation that's out there. It's part of my job is to stay on top of that. But we haven't had any discussions with any other teams about any other quarterbacks.
John Robinson saying no discussions with any other teams about any other quarterbacks. That's okay, because now it's draft season. What about drafting one? So there are two quarterbacks I believe the Titans are not going to have a chance to draft unless they move up, and they'd have to move up in order to do this. One is Malik Willis at Liberty, who I thought was awesome yesterday. The other one is Kenny Pickett, who was probably the best college quarterback that was draft eligible last year in college football. And Kenny Pickett yesterday had his hand measured, and he measured at 8.5, which would be the smallest in the NFL of any starter. And let me just say this, no thank you. It'd be one thing for me if Kenny Pickett was like an unbelievable, unstoppable college player and he had 8.5-inch hands. But the fact that not one player in the NFL has 8.5-inch hands as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I don't count Taysom Hill, but not one player has hands that small at that position. He has to wear gloves when he throws the football. And I'm supposed to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to draft him in the top 10 to lead my franchise? No, thank you. He wasn't that good in college that would make me say, okay, I can deal with this. Because small hands means two things. One, it means you're going to fumble the ball.
And he had 38, 39 fumbles at Pitt.
Over how many years?
3, I believe.
He had 39 fumbles.
I believe so. I can double check that stat, but he had a very high number of fumbles.
Oh, dear God. So he had all those fumbles, So you're going to fumble the ball if you got small hands. The other thing, you're not going to be great throwing through cold weather. And again, you would say, well, Joe Burrow has 9-inch hands and, Joe Burrow's doing just fine. Yes. But like I said, if you were knock them out of the park kind of player, then I'd be okay with it. But Joe Burrow was, in college, the best player in America.
38 fumbles in 4 seasons.
I mean, good God. So, look, Tannehill has small hands. What's that mean? Tannehill's hands are a half-inch bigger than Pickett's. Tannehill cannot go up into Buffalo in January and win. He couldn't do it when he was quarterback in the Dolphins. He didn't go into New England and win. He didn't go into Green Bay a couple years ago when it snowed, and he looked so out of place. So you're not going to be able to throw through cold weather. And that's who's got the biggest hands in the NFL? Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers. Guys that can throw through any weather. So I'm sorry, I'm out on Pickett. I mean, the hands matter. And it wouldn't matter again if he was so unstoppable in college, like Michael Vick, who
Joe
has similar
Burrow.
hands. Right. If you're that good, then I'll make an exception. But he wasn't that good in college, so those hand sizes, Twitter's going to get mad at me. But I would, if I was a team that likes Kenny Pickett, and I was like Carolina, and I was like, I like Pickett, maybe 9 or wherever they're picking is a little too high, but I think I could do that. I'd be like, nope, hands too small.
I mean, yeah. I mean, especially if you're looking at a cold weather team. I mean, that was the comparison that has been made so many times with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow had 9-inch hands in the 2019 draft. That was, worrying teams. Are the Bengals going to go for a different quarterback because they were worried about Joe Burrow's hands? Joe Burrow has a better arm. Joe Burrow is a more accurate passer. And Joe Burrow has a much better grasp and has much better pocket presence than Kenny Pickett has. I understand that hand size is one of many factors. But if you're looking at Kenny Pickett, and I also like to think about if Kenny Pickett was in the 2019 draft, if Kenny Pickett was in the 2020 draft, where would he be ranked amongst these other quarterbacks? Would Kenny Pickett have been a Heisman finalist last season? I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. Right. So is he a victim of circumstance in that he had so much national recognition because this is a quote-unquote weak quarterback draft, or is he really just that good?
Well, and he's the most projectable, as far as you probably feel like you know what you're going to get out of him. But again, small hands, pass. James is up next, 615-737-1025 on Malik Willis. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, James.
Yeah. In this weak class, I would say that Ritter and Strong are going. But I am so glad that everybody is hyping up Willis to drive down better players because he's just not going to be anything in the NFL. When you look at a guy who washed out of Auburn, he went to Liberty and played in one of the weakest conferences in the NCAA. He played against guys who will never play in the NFL. And in 2 years, he threw 63% completion rate, barely passed over 5,000 yards, 40-something touchdowns and 19 picks, and should have been in the upper 20s because he threw a lot of bad passes. And I just don't understand the hype, but I'm glad it's there because that means that Ritter and these other guys are going to fall down to the bottom of the draft.
Yep, thank you for your call, James. I cannot speak on Malik Willis's college career because I didn't watch it.
Well,
now the
to
whole
be
thing
fair,
about
he did not wash out of Auburn. He transferred to Liberty to follow the coach that recruited him to Auburn.
Yeah, plus, I mean, think about that. Baker Mayfield was a transfer. He went number 1 overall. Joe Burrow was a transfer. He went number 1 overall. Jalen Hurts was a transfer. He's starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't get too worked up about that. I mean, your starting quarterback had to play wide receiver in college. So, I don't – again, I'm not going to speak one way or another to Malik Willis's college career because, again, I didn't watch it. So I'm not going to pretend like I have any idea of what I'm talking about. He's got the big body. He's got the athleticism. And he's got the cannon for an arm. And the one thing that the Titans have to offer, as much as I can't, as much as we know that I'm not a huge proponent of Ryan Tannehill being the starting quarterback of the Titans next year, is that if you were to draft a guy in the first round, and I would love to know how much they like Malik Willis or don't like Malik Willis, which they'll never tell you, but the fact that the Titans will be able to sit whoever they draft on the bench, I think is a solid position to be in. I really believe in sitting quarterbacks on the bench. Steve McNair sat on the bench for 2 years. Tom Brady sat on the bench for a year. Patrick Mahomes sat on the bench for a year. Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench for a year. Joe Burrow was injured for half of a year. Like, I do believe that being that holding a clipboard is really important, especially if you've got a solid organization, which the Titans have. I thought the Titans put Marcus Mariota, and maybe Marcus never would have been any good anyway. I don't know. But I thought the Titans put Marcus in a really tough spot. They kept changing the coordinator on him. They kept changing the coach on him. They had no good players around him. And I think sometimes that's why a lot of quarterbacks fail. And that's where I look at this situation with Ryan Tannehill being the quarterback, saying, okay, if you draft one of these guys in the first round, sit him on the bench. I see Malik Willis and the talent, and I'm like, if that guy, and again, Hugh Freeze has a good offense. Like, I mean, when he was at Ole Miss and they were cheating and they were cranking out points, that was a good offense.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say to sit him on the bench and have him learn from Tannehill and from Downing and Tim Kelly, like, I am here for it. Here for it. I'm not, I don't want to call it the boohoo Malik Willis crew, but I just don't know. I don't know anything about his college career. I don't know what you know about his college. I don't know anything about his college career.
I know a little bit about his college career. We had him on a show when I was at ESPN. I did a lot of research on what he did at Liberty, and what I took away from it was really strong arm and really good with his legs. Incredibly mobile quarterback.
Okay. And Vrabel has said that's important to him. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Yesterday, and I know I already complained about this on the air, but yesterday highlighted a huge mistake that the Titans made. And, oh, it's just breaking my heart. We'll get to that coming up next here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. TriStar Moving, they're the presenting sponsor of this show, and I am glad to have them on because I've been telling you about TriStar for forever now, and there's a reason why. They are the best, 100% hands down, the best moving company in Middle Tennessee. It's okay if you don't believe me because some people think I have some crazy takes, but just do yourself a favor and go check out their hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google that will back up that opinion. You know why they get so many 5-star reviews? It's because of the service that they provide. And that's throughout the entire process, starting with the estimate where their professionals come out and give you a quote, their administrative staff that works with you every step of the way, and the movers who show up the day of. I have sent tons of people their way, and those people always call me back and say, thank you for telling me about TriStar Moving, and that includes my cousin. And I'm like, you got to call these guys. Garrett, Robert, the owners of TriStar Moving are Nashville through and through, and all they want is the opportunity to help as many fellow Nashvillians like you make what can be one of the most obnoxiously stressful experiences into a positive one. So if you're considering moving, just get a bid from TriStar. Give them a call, 615-640-1219, or visit their website at nationalmoving.org/radio and get a personal discount on me of 5%. That's TriStar Moving, 615-640-1219, nationalmoving.org/radio. Tell them Jared Stillman sent you for 5% off your entire move. TriStar Moving, my official movers.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bopus. Today stays warm, middle 70s for high temperatures, plenty of sunshine, and that rolls into your Saturday as well. Once again in the mid 70s. However, Saturday night into Sunday, our next chance for some decent rainfall moves into the forecast.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Gary Ashton here. I love hearing people say, don't sell without the intel, because it means they're really embracing our message. Now's a great time to sell your home in Nashville, but you need the intel only the Gary Ashton team can provide. Intel that helps you sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel to win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Let everyone else get the same information and compete for the same properties, while you get the intel edge with the Gary Ashton team, the official real estate team for your Tennessee Titans. And if you're looking for a great career, join our team. We added 65 new agents last year, and we want you to join us this year. Remember, don't sell without the intel. And if you're looking for a great career, the Gary Ashton team wants you in 2022. Call 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com today.
Did you know that every diamond at Genesis Diamonds is over 1 billion years old? That's before dinosaurs, even before some of the stars in the sky. These elusive stones were originally formed miles beneath the Earth's surface, each one born in a volcanic explosion, yet kept hidden for generations. It's a fact that for every 1 carat diamond at Genesis Diamonds, trained miners blasted through over 200 tons of rock, and skilled experts sifted through the rubble to find the highly sought-after rough diamonds. Then expert cutters spend untold hours shaping and polishing each stone, unlocking its beauty and fire and brilliance. From the hands of the craftsman direct to you, these magical stones are your piece of eternity. Precious, rare, unique, indestructible, and treasured all over the world. Oh, and the unbeatable prices at Genesis Diamonds? They're just a bonus. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Uncompromising quality, unimaginable value.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and when I'm out with my friends, my go-to is Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It can be served as a drink or a shot, and it's always a hit with the crew. Screwball is the original and most awarded peanut butter whiskey in the world, made with real whiskey, peanuts, and peanut butter. You can learn more about them by visiting screwballwhiskey.com, and do like me when you're out and about, ask for it by name at your favorite bar. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2022 Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
1 win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
You're listening to Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Tyquan Thornton of Baylor. These times are unofficial. However, if it's official, we have a new fastest man in the history of the Combine.
I thought he stumbled.
Tyquan Thornton, who I had never heard of until yesterday, just blazing with speed at the combine. Chris Olave, blazing with speed at the combine. I mean, there were all these receivers that were just running through the roof, and some of them, I guess Sky Moore, Western Michigan, was a guy. Caleb Austin, wide receiver out of Memphis, might be a second-round pick. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I fell in love with Malik Willis yesterday. I like Desmond Ridder, as the future for the Titans, if that's the route they want to go. I thought Ridder has, looked the part so far. And we know that Vrabel's close with his coach, but you can't have both. And here's why you can't have both. Because even though it's a good wide receiver draft, it's going to push really good wide receivers down into the second round. The Titans don't have a second-round pick because they traded it for Julio Jones. And so I don't want to just come on the air and bitch about the Julio trade every day. But I do feel like this is the moment. This reminds me when the Texans traded all those picks to get Laramie Tunsil to play left tackle. And then they had to pay Laramie Tunsil this unbelievable contract. And Floyd said to me, he goes, every coach is going to want to go out and add a veteran player. Every coach will be like, give me the veteran player. And it's the general manager's job to be the one to say, no, we need our picks, and here's why we need our picks. Because it's a young, cheap, uninjured talent. And you see these 40 times these guys are running, unless it's Tyreek Hill, nobody in the NFL still runs that fast. So, all these guys, you get a veteran receiver, you go out and buy a veteran receiver, they're not running that fast anymore. And so I saw this and I'm like, you can't have both now. And it kills me that the Titans can't have both because they had to go trade for old man Julio Jones. What a terrible trade. What a terrible decision. And they knew it too. We cried about it, Caroline. They knew.
It's frustrating because the same reason why the Titans are going to have a really either, forego a quarterback in the first round and take a wide receiver or not take one of these speedy wide receivers in the second round is because they thought they were getting some kind of elite wide receiver in Julio Jones. If Julio Jones delivered what his contract really kind of expected him to be, I don't think the Titans would be
what they expected him to be, which nobody else in the NFL expected.
But with the size of the contract, I feel like there's a certain expectation. But yeah, you're right. What the Titans, period, expected him to be.
That's why nobody
Titans
was
would
willing to
need
do
a
that.
wide receiver so desperately. So now you have no second-round pick to pick a wide receiver, and the wide receiver that you gave up a second-round pick for can't even play a full game because his hamstring is in pieces.
What a complete and utter screw-up. I mean, in all seriousness.
And
what
I hate saying I told you so.
That's
but
the part that's
we
so bothersome.
not tell him so?
That's the hard part about the avoidable, it was so avoidable because everybody knew. And I told the story on the air, and Titans fans didn't want to hear it. But I told the story on air. I talked to somebody in Atlanta that said that there was a play designed for Julio Jones. And you can only run it once, then it's on tape. Everybody's got it. They called for the play, and Julio ran off the field. And I'm like, if Floyd heard that, that would be it. He would not be interested in Julio Jones. Now, Floyd would have never wanted Julio anyways because he's old and expensive. But that would have been it. Like, phone down, we're out. And I know Robinson had to hear the same things that I heard, and they still took – and now Julio wasn't a bad guy this year, but they took the cheese. And, and you see these receivers that are going to be second-round picks, and you're like, and tight ends, Jelani Woods that TD's obsessed with.
Like 4-3, 4-4 guys.
The only thing that's worse is trading a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. Like, that is the only thing that just hurts as bad as that. You know, make that of what you will. What do we have in the text line? 615-737-1025 on a Fireball Hot Take Friday.
One texter texts in and says the Titans need to trade their first-round pick for 2 twos.
So that's not really how that works. You're not trading 26 for 2 twos. I think Charlie Casserly did that like one year, I think maybe like 2004. It was the year the Titans ended up taking Ben Troop. And I believe they got 2 twos maybe in exchange for a 1. But for the most part, people aren't doing that. Like, unless there's a quarterback there, the best thing you're going to do, like when the Titans moved up, and I forget where they were picking, but I think they were picking in the same range, like 25th. And they moved up to 21st to take Rashaan Evans. And it was a first, and they added a 4th-round pick. So that's what you're going to get if you if you try to move back, move out, move whatever. You're going to get like a 3rd, or you're going to get a pick in next year's draft. And fans definitely don't want, they absolutely do not want to pick in next year's draft. Ian says the Packers moved up to 26 for Jordan Love, so they moved up from 30th. And they added pick 136. What is that? It's 4th round? 5th round?
I don't exactly know, but it says 136.
Okay, so I think
Late
that's
round.
probably a 4th round pick. So that's what you're getting. You're not getting 2 twos in this draft. You're going to get, somebody else's 1, or you're going to get a 2, and then you're going to get if you get 2 twos, the second 2 will be next year, which I'm not against. But if you think Desmond Ritter's that cat, then you got to go with Desmond Ridder. What's next?
Another texter texts in and says that remember that the window is closing fast, so go for a burner instead of a quarterback.
No. That is stupid talk.
Why?
If you like a quarterback, like you believe this guy is a franchise quarterback, right? And we use Desmond Ridder as the example. But again, you're not going to take a guy 26th if you don't think he's a franchise quarterback.
And that's what I'm saying is why would the Titans take this guy just to take him?
Yeah, you're not taking a backup with the 26th pick. So if you think this guy is the future at quarterback and you sit him on the bench for a year, even though you think you're in your championship window now and you think that window's closing, if he goes in there and he is the guy, then your window is open for the next 15 years. Look at Kansas City. I mean, think about all the good players that Kansas City had when they played the Titans in that playoff game where Mariota went there and threw the pass to himself for the touchdown, and the Titans won that game. And think about how many players that were really good players are not on that Kansas City team anymore. I mean, they had that linebacker, Derek Johnson, who was unbelievable. I mean, they had a lot of good players that are no longer in the league anymore. Now, they still have Hill and Kelsey, but the truth is that if Ritter's the guy, and again, big if, capital I-F, if Desmond Ridder is the guy and you believe, hey, this kid, a year under his belt, our system fits it perfectly, well, he's going to be great. And he goes out there in year 2 and is a stud. And you're like, you can win with this guy. Then you're going to have a more chance to extend your window because you'll still have Simmons and A.J. Brown. And you'll be able to pay free agents because you're not dedicating $38 million in cap space to the quarterback. The cap's going to be $265 million, and you're paying your quarterback $1 million. I mean, then you'll be able to go out and get whoever you want. So the reality is you're not hurting the window if you go get a quarterback, and the quarterback is the guy. The whole key to all of this is not getting a quarterback. It is getting the right quarterback. That's the whole key to this.
Well, I think a lot of fans are looking at the window as it's currently constructed, that the window is only open as long as Derrick Henry is on this team. So I think a lot of fans may look at it and say, okay, well, if the Titans draft a quarterback, they sit him on the bench for a year to develop him, then how long does Derrick Henry have playing alongside this new quarterback that the Titans may or may not draft to be the future of the franchise?
No, I hear that idea, but the truth is right now, I don't know about, like, we took calls yesterday where people were sitting there depressed about the offseason because they don't think they can win with Tannehill. And Tannehill is certainly, no offense to the boohoo Tannehill crew, but Tannehill has done nothing to prove that you can win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill. So you want to talk to me about window, and you want to say the window's open. And I'm telling you right now, like, what has Tannehill done to make you think you can win the Super Bowl with him at quarterback? I mean, to me, nothing. So if you think one of these guys is the guy, Derrick Henry probably isn't Derrick Henry. Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous Derrick Henry is no longer going to be what Derrick Henry was.
Well, we don't know.
Injury. But I'm worried about it.
And that's a fair worry.
At this point, you have to be cautious about it now every year. Like, you got to be year to year with Derrick Henry. But again, A.J. Brown's still here. Jeffrey Simmons is still here. This team will be okay if they find the right quarterback. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Here is a concern that comes with drafting a quarterback, and it has nothing to do with the quarterback that the Titans draft, but it is a big concern for a lot of fans, including me, and we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The voice of reason.
If I'm the official, I would send both teams to the locker room and say, this is going to stop.
The voice of the fan.
Our entire team's a mash unit right now.
The voice of Nashville sports is your home of Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
When you cut lawns for a living, reliability matters. The Kubota commercial lineup with purpose-built mowers like the Z700 zero-turn, SZ stand-on, and W-Series walk-behind decrease downtime and increase productivity. A comprehensive fleet program with special discounts and free loaners helps grow your business one perfectly manicured lawn at a time. Visit your local Kubota dealer today.
Come see why Coleman Tractor Company is one of the largest Kubota dealers in Middle Tennessee, Paris, Clarksville, Nashville, and their new location in White House.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as 2 weeks from now with no cost to you and zero hassle. Mike and Joan in Brentwood called Loan Pronto and they did a Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi. They got a check for $100,000. They used $50,000 to pay off all of their credit cards and a car loan. Use the other $50K to upgrade their master bath and kitchen. They locked in a new APR in the 2s and lowered their total monthly bills by hundreds of dollars. Hello? What are you waiting on? Call Loan Pronto now and convert your home value into cash. Put that money to good use. Do it now, and you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780 or lowpronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics wants to thank their patients for voting them the #1 orthopedic practice in the Nashville Scene Poll for 3 years in a row. Their physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all physicians, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
When Smashville wants to rock. We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN,
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell media station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. Fireball Hot Take Friday. I'm on remote. Caroline Fenton, meanwhile, is in our Hillside Medical Game Studios. And it is combine season. It is draft season. And the quarterbacks yesterday went to work. And I thought they looked pretty good. Two in particular, Malik Willis, I think is now a top 15 quarterback. Maybe, honestly, a top 10 quarterback. Would not surprise me. Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati. TD said yesterday, before he went out there and performed, TD said of all the quarterbacks out there, the most like a John Robinson or Mike Vrabel guy was Desmond Ridder, and he put on a show. And it's funny because I think oftentimes in the NFL, we look at quarterbacks and we just point to a guy that didn't work out. And we say, he was a bust. He stinks. But I've told this story many times. And that is in 2006, the Titans drafted Vince Young, 3rd overall. And many people look back to Floyd's tenure as general manager, and they think about Eddie George and Keith Bullock and Steve McNair and all these great players that they drafted over the years, Samari Roll and Derek Mason. And they say to themselves, well, yeah, but he drafted Pac-Man and he drafted Vince Young, and those were both busts. And, you know, what does that really mean? And anytime you bring up Vince Young to Floyd, he would tell you, all I know is when I was general manager, he was rookie of the year and in the Pro Bowl. And what happened after I left, I don't know. And if you can read between the lines, you know that that's him taking a shot at Jeff Fisher. That is his way of saying, look, I drafted him 3rd overall. And in one season with me running the show, he was rookie of the year. And he was one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the AFC. Translation, they screwed him up. By the way, do you know who the offensive coordinator of the Titans was back then? Which, by the way, makes no sense in hindsight. It was Norm Chow, who is the worst coordinator in the history of the Tennessee Titans on either side of the ball. And that's saying something because Ray Horton was horrendous as a defensive coordinator. Chuck Cecil was awful. But Norm Chow did not know that the 2-minute warning existed in the NFL until his first preseason game. Like, Norm Chow was horrible. And not only that, he was Matt Leinert's coordinator. So I don't know why they went out and they brought in Matt Leinert's coordinator to then draft Vince Young. But that was the translation from Floyd, was they screwed Vince Young up. And that probably happens to quarterbacks in this league more often than you think. Think about Daniel Jones. Now, I don't love Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones was taken 6th overall by the New York Giants. Pat Shurmur was the coach. Pat Shurmur gets fired after 1 year. In comes Joe Judge and his offensive coordinator. And then Joe Judge changes the offensive coordinator and he puts in Jason Garrett. And then in the middle of the year, in year 3 for Daniel Jones, they fire Jason Garrett. And now Freddie Kitchens is now in charge. And so Daniel Jones is like, okay, over here, he's over there, he's over there, he's over there. I mean, no disrespect to Daniel Jones. He's got a new coach now. And now it's like, all right, Daniel Jones, prove to us if you're a good quarterback. He had 3 head coaches. He's had all these coordinators. We saw it with Mariota. Sometimes these teams can't get out of their own way, and it screws up quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes was drafted in the first round, sat a year on the bench in Kansas City. You want to know who his coaching staff was? Head coach Andy Reid. Last time I checked, Caroline, pretty good offensive coach.
Pretty solid.
Offensive coordinator Matt Nagy ended up being a head coach. Running backs coach Eric Bieniemy. Offensive quality control. So this is like low-end coach, right? Like this is a guy who's breaking into the business, and then you go from quality control to a positional group, then to, coordinator and the head coach. Mike Kafka, a former quarterback from Northwestern, smart guy, was in New England when Floyd was in New England as a quarterback back up to Brady. Kafka is now the offensive coordinator of the New York Giants with Brian Daboll. So look at that coaching staff that he had and the consistency that he's had with Andy Reid. Maybe that has helped Patrick Mahomes become Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen was drafted in the first round. He was the 4th quarterback taken in his class. And guess what? Brian Daboll was his offensive coordinator, and he got better every year. So we talked to all the fans, and if you're not mad at Tannehill for why they lost this year, you definitely are mad at Todd Downing. Vrabel does not coach offense. They brought in Tim Kelly. I don't even know what Tim Kelly does. Vrabel was talking to Paul Kaharski on Outkick 360 earlier this week to explain what Tim Kelly does. And guess what? He didn't even really tell us. Here's what he said.
At the end of the day, Todd's responsible for everything that comes from the coaching staff, Tim included. Again, there's one person that can say, hey, run this, and that would be me. But there's going to be a collaborative effort just like there always is. We're excited to add Tim. We're excited to add people that we believe can help us, that don't have agendas, and that are loyal. So that I would like to explain that. That's the process, and it's somebody that I think after watching how it worked with Jim and the defense and Shane, I'm excited to see how it will work with us on offense.
Okay, doesn't tell us what he does, but with that offensive staff, and again, Vrabel's not an offensive coach, with Downing and with Kelly, is that enough to develop one of these guys into a future star? Because the coaching matters. Steve McNair had Les Steckel, a veteran offensive coach, an NFL coach who had coached Shannon Sharp into a tight end and a Hall of Famer in Denver. So I'm just saying, like, I understand, like, when we talk about, and again, I'm not throwing Downing under the bus. And Vrabel loved Downing after the end of the season in his last press conference, but then he goes and hires Tim Kelly to be an extra set of eyeballs. But I do think it's a concern with the Titans, since Arthur Smith has left, of whether or not they have the offensive coaching to be able to develop a young quarterback. And so as much as I get excited about Ritter and as much as I get excited about Malik Willis, and I don't think the Titans will be able to get Malik Willis, but as much as I get excited about those guys, I have to wonder, do they have the offensive coaching staff, or is this Norm Chow part 2? And that concerns me, thinking about these quarterbacks and whether or not they would be able to fit here.
Well, it's difficult because we haven't seen this coaching staff develop a young quarterback. But, I mean, they're going to have to do it eventually.
Well, we didn't see Arthur Smith develop young quarterbacks either, and I think he'll do a pretty good job.
I think he could be okay. So, is it the inexperience? Is it the
No, it's the question of whether or not do they
offense?
suck. Like, it's a legitimate question to ask. And I know that it's a legitimate question to ask. Does Todd Downing stink? That is a fair question to ask. I'm not saying he does. I never said he did. But I know that people wonder it. I know people talk about it.
I think people do think that.
It's a fair question. So if he stinks, then you're not developing quarterbacks. Ellie's been waiting for a while, and I almost didn't want to get to his call earlier because this is something I was thinking too. But your comment box, Ellie, phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, says the exact same thing we're talking about right now. Ellie, go ahead. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust Todd Downing to develop anyone. Hopefully Tim Kelly will help the offense. I mean, the only difference between us and the Rams in that Super Bowl game is they had better coaching when it really mattered. I mean, McVay just did everything different than what we did in that last 2 minutes. They went to their best guy. They threw to their best guy. I wouldn't waste my time getting a quarterback with that offensive coordinator, and I would go for maybe a Chris Olave or get a Pierce or someone who could take the top off of it. And just if we're going to keep Tannehill, let's just go for it and cross our fingers and hope he has a Joe Flacco moment for winning a Super Bowl. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ellie. I don't disagree with the idea that Todd Downing's resume leaves a lot to be desired, and again, when coaches get fired, when coaches are coaching, they will tell you, if I make this big mistake, then I'm going to get fired. And then when they get fired, they give you a bunch of excuses for why it wasn't their fault. I'm sure everybody does that in every industry when it comes to getting fired. But Todd Downing had 1 year as coordinator of the Raiders. We talked to Fitz about it, and Fitz is like, it was awful. Well, the year before Todd Downing took over, Derek Carr was an MVP candidate. Now, I know he broke his leg, but the next year, Derek Carr wasn't very good. And a lot of people point the finger at Downing for that. Ryan Tannehill made the Pro Bowl 2 years ago, and he could have made the Pro Bowl, maybe should have made the Pro Bowl in 2020. And he stunk last year for most of the season. And not just because all these guys were hurt, but it was evident in training camp that Ryan Tannehill was turning the ball over too much. Right now, Todd Downing, I'd be betting against him. I'm rooting for him, but I'm betting against him. And it'd be a big concern of mine if I was John Robinson, if I'm going to draft a quarterback and I want that guy to be the guy, and my coordinator isn't good enough, and my offensive coaching staff is not good enough to be able to carry him across the finish line. And I have reservations about this quarterback coach too, Pat O'Hara, because they came in when LaFleur was head coach or offensive coordinator. They came in to fix Mariota, and they didn't fix Marcus. And so then LaFleur goes, and he wants to bring Arthur with him to Green Bay, but he doesn't want to bring Pat O'Hara with him to Green Bay. And then Vrabel promotes Arthur, and he doesn't promote Pat O'Hara. And then Arthur leaves, and Vrabel still doesn't promote the quarterback coach. And Arthur doesn't take the quarterback coach with him to Atlanta. That would concern me about the quarterback coach.
And I do wonder, did they bring in Tim Kelly with the thought or intention of drafting a quarterback with the same concerns that we have about Todd Downing?
Maybe. And the positive with that would be that Tim Kelly was there when Deshaun Watson was a younger quarterback, but I believe he was a positional coach at that time with Watson, and then really didn't go hands-on as far as that offense was concerned until the middle of 2020 when they fired Bill O'Brien. Because Bill O'Brien was running the show there. And O'Brien is a great quarterback coach. I mean, look what he did with Bryce Young as a freshman this year. Bill O'Brien's a great quarterback. I mean, he's a crazy head coach, but he is a good quarterback coach and a good coordinator. And so, I mean, look what he did with Christian Hackenberg and all those games he won with the Texans with all those no-name quarterbacks. O'Brien knows what he's doing. That might be part of it. But then it's like, okay, well, Watson was great, but how much of that was O'Brien compared to Kelly? And I don't know. But I do question the coaching. If they were to draft one of these guys, the Titans would be able to coach him up right. Corey Curtis, news too. He was there in Indianapolis. What he thought of the combine, what the Titans said, and what he's seen so far. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company right here at ESPN 102.5 The Game. Every Wednesday, it's me, Jared Stillman, against Joe Rexroad for Jared versus Joe. Brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment. Visit ParmanTractor.com, your Middle Tennessee link belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Put your tray tables up, turn vacation mode on, and fly away to where you belong, the beach. Myrtle Beach is 60 miles where you can let your best self shine. Start planning at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
The Law Office of Amanda J. Gentry, our team is dedicated to helping you navigate the court system. We defend your rights, we protect your rights, and we enforce your rights. Whether you've been charged with a crime, you have children that you want to parent, we will go wherever justice demands. Call our team today, 615-604-6263.
Call the Law Office of Amanda J. Gentry at 615-604-6263 or visit AmandaJGentry.com for more information.
It's Covington, it's Masvidal, it's the rivalry that will be renewed this Saturday night, and FanDuel Sportsbook is making things even more exciting by offering new customers 30-1 odds on either fighter. So we're actually here to let you know you can win $150 on a $5 bet with this deal. All you have to do is sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook using promo code Joe102, pick your fighter, get ready to win big. I'd go Covington. And I let you know that I love betting with FanDuel Sportsbook because it's quick, it's easy to get started, get those winnings fast, lots of different things you can bet on. The same game parlays are awesome. You can do multi-sport on that too. FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook for a lot of reasons. Take my word for it. And don't miss your chance to cash in on one of the biggest fights of the year. Sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook using promo code Joe102 today. But you must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. New users only $10 first deposit required. Must wager in a designated offer market. Max bonus $150. Bonus for Tennessee users fulfilled in site rather than 72 hours. Tennessee site credit expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-9789.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we sleep when we want to?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep the facility running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, and Maria in Miami, Jules in Minneapolis, and Stan in Central Indiana, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with experienced branch staff at over 250 locations so you get the product you're looking for. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025. The Game, the Preds Foundation Wine Festival and Tasting presented by Deacons New South returns to Bridgestone Arena on Friday, March 11th. Sample over 225 high-end wines, enjoying delicious culinary creations from local restaurants, and bid an extensive silent auction. Tickets start at $89. Visit nationalpredators.com/wine for more information. Combine going on. The quarterbacks went yesterday. The wide receivers went yesterday. Corey Curtis, News 2, was down in Indianapolis earlier this week. He joins us now on the program. So, Corey, I want to ask you this question. What was your number one takeaway from talking to the Titans brass this week in Indianapolis?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously that they are all still heartbroken over that loss to the Bengals, and they know this was the year, and they blew it. I mean,
do they know who to blame for that, by the way?
Who's that?
Well, I asked, do they know who to blame?
I think they know who to blame, but I think they know they can't say it publicly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, look, look, J-Rob's always been an emotional guy. So it's not that surprising. But that, it's been 5 weeks, and that was a pretty heavy reaction. And when I asked Vrabel a follow-up about it, he didn't dismiss the question. He can dismiss questions with the best of them, and he didn't dismiss that one. And talked about the hurt for the guys. And so it's pretty obvious that they're not over it. Obviously, they're doubling down on Ryan Tannehill. And I think also the answer they gave on Julio Jones, I don't think was a ringing endorsement that he'll be back.
Mm-hmm. So I asked this question because I was talking to TD about this yesterday. I think the Titans are handcuffed by the Julio situation. They can't release him until June 1st. By the time they release him after June 1st, all the good wide receivers and even the second, I think free agency, you need to get the second level wide receivers, not the starting caliber wide receivers, but those guys will be gone too, even the bargain guys. And right now the Titans wide receiving core is AJ Brown, Julio Jones, and Des Fitzpatrick. So unless they plan on using all their picks on wide receivers, which after last night, I'm not convinced would be a bad idea, but I just don't know that they have an option but to bring Julio back.
No, they don't have any tight ends either. I mean, there's a lot of spots where they don't have bodies. And I agree with you because, the other thing is AJ's been known to get dinged. And, we saw what happened this year when Julio was hurt and AJ was hurt. You didn't have anybody. I mean, you didn't have anybody. And so if you're going to move on from Julio, and by the way, trading a second-round pick for a guy and being done with him in a year is a bad look, in my opinion. But you better have two guys, in my opinion, to replace him. And they've got some tough decisions to make, obviously with the cap, but I think they've also got some other decisions to make on how they're going to develop depth at the skill positions on offense right now. Because I think at wide receiver and particularly tight end, the depth is really lacking right now, and they got to figure that out.
Corey Curtis, News 2, is our guest here on the program. What do you think of, after yesterday watching these wide receivers run, what do you think about the Titans getting one of these burners at wide receiver, and how important that would be and how feasible that can be in this draft with the 26th pick?
Well, I don't think they have to pick him at 26. I think that's one of the big keys, because I think that, like you said, there are so many of them that I think you can get one later. I mean, even a guy like Velus Jones Jr., what did he run, a 4.31?
Unbelievable for him, yes.
He can go. He can also return punts and kicks. And what round can they get him in? To get a guy who can help you. And I also think Velus could play the slot. And, there are other guys like him. And so there are enough of them where I don't think you have to panic. And I still contend that they need to trade down and, get a pick in the second and hopefully another one in the third and, add to your haul, because the top 100, 150 in this draft to me looks really, really strong. I think it's stronger to get extra picks in the top 100, 150 than it is to pick at 26. That's just my opinion.
What do you make of quarterback? Because I heard all the Mel Kipers telling me that there are no good quarterbacks in this class, and I just didn't listen to it because I, quite frankly, am not convinced that they know exactly what they're talking about. And I listened to everybody parrot what they heard from these analysts. There's no good quarterbacks. And I watched Malik Willis throw the ball last night. I thought he looked pretty good. And Desmond Ridder is a guy that we've been talking about a lot today. He played for Vrabel's buddy at Cincinnati. TD says he's the most like a John Robinson, Mike Vrabel guy after speaking to him at the Combine. I trust TD's opinion. And on top of it, I thought he looked the part last night. And I could see them going quarterback at 26. What did you make of it?
Well, and I think, I agree with you. I trust TD's take on that. The other thing is this is a guy who models himself after Ryan Tannehill. He's big. He's tall. He can move. And Mike Vrabel emphasized the importance of having a quarterback who can move. So I do think that Desmond Ridder checks a lot of the boxes for this team. And as far as, like you talk about with the analysts, none of these guys are Andrew Luck, okay? None of these guys you're going, man, he checks every single box.
Mm-hmm.
But Peyton Manning didn't check every box. Tom Brady doesn't check every box coming out. And there are intangibles with the quarterback position that you just don't know. And you don't know really until you get them out there, unfortunately. And so sometimes you have to trust what you see on tape more than what you see in a combine environment. And I say that from the aspect of one of these guys or two of these guys may be better than they look in the combine. Like I was talking with Alec Lindstrom yesterday, the center from Boston College. And I was like, I said, honestly, man, I'm like, this is not your event. I mean, the combine is not what you're about. You're about what's on the tape. And he's like, well, believe it or not, I am an athlete. But yeah, it's about playing football and, angles and understanding of leverage and gaps and all these things. Those are all part of football, as well as size, speed, weight, strength. They all play a role. And I think some of that gets overlooked at the quarterback position. When you get enamored with a arm strength of a Drew Lock, and then you realize he just can't play the position.
Corey Curtis, News 2, is our guest. 4 days until the tag deadline. What should happen with Harold Landry?
I'm a defensive guy, all right? I grew up in Chicago with the Bears, and we never had any offense. All I could do is root for defense. And you've got a front four who can win you every game, okay? And for me, I got to find a way to get it done. Unless it's just, unless the negotiations are at a point where it's just at an impossible level and they're not working with me enough, I just feel like they've got to find a way, because if they can bring them back, they can have a front four for the next 3 years that could put them in position to win every game. They've taken too many swings and misses at that position to have a guy who can play and let him walk. They've also missed on too many first-rounders to not keep a good second-rounder.
I think that's pretty well said. I like the veteran pass rushing market that's out there. What's your hot take this week? Corey Curtis, News 2, joining us on the program Fireball Hot Take Friday. What's your hot take this week?
I've got two. First off, I want to congratulate you. I ran a poll. Who was easier to troll, you or Buck, and you won easily. I mean, you dominated 76%. So
what does that mean?
Congratulations on that. Who's the person that's easiest to make fun of on Twitter?
Oh, okay. I was going to say, like, I don't, like, is it easier to get under my skin? Is it?
No.
I don't know.
It's easier just to make fun of you. That's all. But I thought it was Buck. I voted for Buck personally, but, I'm closer to you, so that's all. But the other thing is, and this is in all seriousness, and I know it's a story you followed as well, the worst in people can bring out the best in people. And I just want to give the Titans Nation a pat on the back for taking care of Eddie O'Reilly and his family and helping them get out of the Ukraine and on their way to Frankfurt. And just know that you can help more people than just Eddie and his family. There are other ways to give, and we don't have to know people to want to help them, and that's a perfect example.
Very well said, Corey Curtis from News 2, as always on the program. Appreciate you, Corey.
All right, have a good weekend. Enjoy.
Yep, Corey Curtis joining us here on the program. I actually talked to Eddie O'Reilly yesterday. Seems like he and his family are doing okay. And considering what they've been through, escaping from Ukraine, living in Kyiv, my hats are off to them, but it was good to hear from him. Good to hear that he's doing okay. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. The NFL offseason, while the combine is getting people jazzed up, there is one thing, one shoe that everybody is waiting to drop. And honestly, I'm starting to get a little tired of it. We'll get to that next. Caroline, though, wants to tell you about Caesars Sportsbook.
Yes, I do. It is time for the Caesars Sportsbook Report. Now, remember, if you are a new user to the Caesars Sportsbook app, they're going to throw you a feast. And what I mean by that is that they will give you a $250 Uber Eats gift card. Yep, all you got to do is download the app with code RADIOEAT. One word, code RADIOEAT. And when you wager $50 or more total, you'll get a $250 Uber Eats gift card. Now, we had the Combine drills last night. We'll continue to hear more from the Combine throughout the week. But if you have been watching the Combine, if you've been following the Combine, if you've been following the NFL draft, and you want to put some money on who you think will be the first overall pick, you can do that with the Caesars Sportsbook app. Now, the best odds on Caesars Sportsbook is Evan Neal, offensive tackle out of Alabama, with minus 120 odds. But if you think Aiden Hutchinson put on a show in the college football playoff and you think he's going to be the first overall pick, you can put some money on him at plus 325. But if you think Malik Willis and what he did in the quarterback drills last night was enough to bump him all the way up to the first overall spot, you can put money on him at plus 3,000. A pretty good return there. I don't think he's going to be the first overall pick, but hey, if you feel confident in it, put some money on it and do it with the Caesars Sportsbook app. You must be 21. Offer valid in Tennessee. Only new customers with eligible promo code only. Real money wagers only that have minimum odds of minus 200. $250 gift card redemption code and steps to redeem gift card will be sent via email within 72 hours. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Caesars Sportsbook. Download it, people.
Hey, I'm Ryan Johansson, and this is Smashville.
Back to Johansson, and Johansson tips it in with one hand on the stick.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Care has the power to bring kindness where it's needed. It brings out the best in every one of us. It doesn't just see people. It takes time to understand them. It puts the needs of others ahead of its own. And when you start with care, you end up with a very different kind of bank. Truist. Truist Bank, member FDIC.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free. Plus, a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
Garth Brooks, Saturday, April 16th, Nissan Stadium. Presented by Amazon Music. Tickets on sale Friday, March 4th at 10 a.m. Only 3 ways to buy. Ticketmaster.com/Garth Brooks, the Garth Brooks line at Ticketmaster, or the Ticketmaster app.
Sunday.
Sellout crowd, and here we go. Green flag in Las Vegas.
The stars of the NASCAR Cup Series head to Sin City for the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas. Coverage begins at 1:30
on ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
You never want a guy of that caliber who's done so much, not only for our football team, for our organization, but for the community in Green Bay, and has provided a lot of opportunities for a lot of people because he is a rare one, and not only by his ability on the field, but it transcends the field.
And with the uncertainty that surrounds it, are you envisioning game plans that may include Jordan Love, or do you just put that all aside until you know what the roster is going to look like?
Yeah, I think in some regards you kind of wait and see to what is the final roster going to look like. Certainly, we've started our process. You always do it with free agency in the draft, but then you start diving into the self-scout and just trying to look at areas that you can improve upon and maybe some things that you want to, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, some of the things you want to move on from. So I would say that, but until that puzzle is solved, it's hard to really move too far ahead.
There you go. That was Matt LaFleur on Sirius XM NFL Radio, the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. And I got to say something. Like, I think it's embarrassing when college coaches who are making $5 million a year are, like, kissing up to 16-year-olds. You know, kind of like your Coach Caroline at LSU. Like with his little dancing or whatever it was.
Well, okay, is that not part of the job?
No, but I still think it's embarrassing.
Okay.
Like, I had the opportunity to coach college sports at one point in my life. But
you didn't want to dance with college kids? You're above that?
I honestly, so I could have been a women's basketball coach. And honestly, I think if I had been, I think I'd be a head coach by now. And I think I'd be a good head coach. But.
Of course you do.
But the reason that I decided to do this instead of that is because I could not stand, and I have a lot of respect for the people that do it. I could not see myself at like 8:30 on a Tuesday night being on the phone with like a 15-year-old girl trying to convince her to come play for me. Like, I could not see myself
It's
doing
like half the job.
I know, but like those conversations are so weird. Like, they're so weird, and it was just too much for me. I just couldn't do it. But it's another thing when it's the NFL and it's a 38-year-old grown man, and they're Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst. Oh, we hope Aaron comes back. Oh, God, Aaron. And I got to say this, as somebody who has found themselves in the middle of the Aaron Rodgers gossip cycle, let me say this. I'm starting to get fed up with Aaron's bullcrap. Like, just tell us what you're going to do.
You're starting to get fed up? I think I've been fed up for quite some time.
I cannot deal with this anymore. It's like I'm watching TV today. This morning I'm watching, I'm in the hotel and I'm watching ESPN. And they're like, 4 days. The only reason I know it's 4 days until the tag deadline, when I asked Corey Curtis that, the only reason I know it's 4 days until the tag deadline is because they were like, 4 days until the tag deadline. What is Aaron going to do? Let's bring in the panel to this. I'm like, oh my God, Aaron, we know you know. We know that you knew the whole time. just freaking decide so that we can get on with the NFL offseason. Because I do feel, and I love the offseason, I do feel like there's a part of the NFL offseason that cannot start until Aaron makes his decision. Like that, and I mean, I guess, we've got the combine, and so that's started, but I still feel like we really can't start deciding, okay, who's actually going to be available in free agency, what teams are going to be looking for what players until Aaron makes his decision. And right now he's just milking it for attention. 100%. And I just cannot do this anymore. Like, it is taking the fun out of it. And I understand Aaron was embarrassed when Green Bay drafted Jordan Love. Aaron didn't like it. And everybody wouldn't like it. Tom Brady, basically brought up the fact that Belichick mentioned his age when they drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. Brady didn't like it. So nobody likes it. Nobody likes it when you hire somebody's replacement, to work for them. So Aaron decided to get back to Green Bay on draft night of last year, which is when the Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport reports came out that Aaron was determined to leave Green Bay. So this has been going on for a year. And Aaron, I think, still probably harbors a little bit of resentment towards Green Bay because that's the kind of dude he is. I understand. Well, then just tell him you're going to leave and go. Or tell him you're going to stay and stay. But I mean, good God. Dude, he knows. I was listening to Mad Dog Russo on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. I was listening to Dog, and I thought he said it best. And remember, this is a channel that has Aaron Rodgers on once a week because he goes on with McAfee. Mm-hmm. And I am at this point, I thought he articulated it perfectly of just how sick and freaking tired I am of Aaron Rodgers.
And then finally, there is Rodgers, who, hopefully he doesn't give our good buddy Patty McAfee another 43 minutes next Tuesday, because I've had enough of Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to hear from him. I'm not interested in his girlfriend relationships. I'm not interested in State Farm commercials, and I'm not interested in Jeopardy. Okay, I'm not. Here's the next time I want to hear Aaron Rodgers. When you tell me, and he's not going to retire, so forget that. He's not quitting. The next time I want to hear from Aaron Rodgers is telling me I want to play in Green Bay or I don't. That's what I want to hear from Aaron Rodgers. I am not interested in, from everybody, it's not Mac's fault. Everybody told me he said absolutely nothing for 43 minutes. Now, no idiot, and that includes me, I'm the dumbest of them all, would ever, if Rodgers called up and said, hey, does Russo want to talk for 20 minutes? I'd be a jerk if I said no. Of course I want to talk. But I'm a little Rodgers out, to say the least.
I think most of us feel that way, right?
I think I've been Rodgers'd out ever since, for a long time. The Instagram post, Rodgers'd me out. I mean, the whole COVID thing, Rodgers'd me out. I mean, ever since last season, when we had the Aaron leaving Green Bay saga 1.0, I was sick and tired of him inserting himself in the headlines just because he liked it.
I understand the fact that this time 2 years ago, the world shut down and there was nothing to talk about except for NFL free agency and the NFL draft, and that the greatest player of all time was leaving the only franchise that he had ever been a part of. And so immediately everything for like 3 weeks was all Brady all the time. That wasn't Brady's fault. Like, Tom Brady didn't sit there and say, hey, I want everything to be about me all the time. Tom Brady just happened to be the one newsworthy item in the midst of a global pandemic until the draft started. But I was kind of Brady'd out then too. It's like, every day it turned into, is the Bucs going to be better than the Patriots? Is Brady going to prove he's better than Belichick? Is he? And that was too much for me. Like, I was like, oh goodness gracious, that's a lot of talk about Tom Brady. And me, I love Tom Brady. I talk about Tom Brady all day. But like, oh goodness, this though, holy freaking, what? Like, it's so obnoxious. Like, I want Aaron Rodgers to be the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Now, I understand that it's not very likely that he's going to be the quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. In fact, it's almost, what do you think, 99% likely that he's not the quarterback of the Titans. Is 1% too much?
Maybe even so. I think it's like a 99.5% chance that Aaron Rodgers is not the quarterback here. Yes.
So I know that that's not very likely. I understand. But I'm with Dog. I'm Aaroned out. All this talk about Denver or And not only that, like, what's he doing to the team he's going to go to? You know, part of the thing about wanting to be like Brady or wanting to be like Manning, where those guys had a second chapter in their careers, was that when they got to the place that they went to, they kicked ass. Like, they went there and Brady won a Super Bowl. And Manning went there and he won 2 more MVPs, I believe, and he won a Super Bowl. Like, that's what they did. So if you're Aaron Rodgers and you want to go to Denver, but you're not going to tell Denver that you want to go there, then what are you doing to the Broncos? Because right now, George Payton and Nathaniel Hackett are sitting there in Indianapolis, and they're probably watching Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell and Kenny Pickett, because they're thinking, well, if Aaron doesn't come, then we're going to have to pick a quarterback. But if Aaron had told them, hey, I want to go to Denver, then Denver doesn't need to look at any quarterbacks, and they can sit there and start finding receivers for Aaron or offensive linemen for Aaron or whatever. So he's not just doing a disservice to everybody by dragging this out, and especially the Packers, but he's really doing a disservice to whatever team ends up with him, because whatever team ends up with him can't sit there and plan on building around Aaron. And I find him to be so obnoxious.
But I don't think he cares if he's doing anyone a disservice.
No, but that's because he's selfish.
Yeah, and if he knew he was doing someone a disservice and actually cared, we wouldn't be in this situation right now, because I find it very hard to believe 4 days before the deadline that he wouldn't know what he wants to do, that his mind would not be made up.
By the way, I was listening this morning to a national show, and they were talking about Nathaniel Hackett. So you texted me yesterday, and you said that Nathaniel Hackett's a goober.
Goob.
And you might be right. I don't know.
I mean, I just saw his interview on Good Morning Football yesterday, and he spent half the interview just gushing about how much he loved Good Morning Football. Dude, you're a coach in the NFL.
Oh, don't even get me started on Good Morning
Football.
Football.
I know that how you feel about CoolCleatsChannel.com. I know.
Do you know what? So I'm watching today, right? And I want to see what they're saying about the NFL Network it's a niche channel for a very popular sport.
Yes.
So I turned on today when ESPN was talking about basketball or something, and I turned on to NFL Network because I want to hear them talk about how the receivers and the running backs, and I want to hear quarterbacks. And so they're like, what do we think of Malik Willis's performance? And I forget who was on the desk. And they asked the guy, and the guy was like, well, I did an Instagram breakdown of Malik Willis, and Malik followed me on Instagram. So I was talking with Malik, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care who followed you on Instagram. How did the guy do at the combine? Oh, I hate that show.
I know you
It is so embarrassing to football.
Cleat Talk
It is
Channel.
so. I would rather watch the
Embarrassing
Nickelodeon.
to football.
I would rather watch the Nickelodeon announcers talk about football. Oh no, Nickelodeon. Was what Mad Dog said. I would rather watch that than watch Good Morning Football because they don't ever talk about football. 615-737-1025. Now, I've said that I'm errand out, which I am errand out. But there is one instance where I would change my mind on Aaron Rodgers. And it involves the Titans, and that's next. Stillman and Company, right here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday, 615-737-1025. The Predators in Bridgestone Arena appreciate and recognize military, first responders, and their family. Your company can help fund tickets for these heroes during the Ford Military Week next week, March 7th. Learn more about the Hero Salute program at nationalpredators.com/military week.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bopus. Today stays warm, middle 70s for high temperatures, plenty of sunshine, and that rolls into your Saturday as well. Once again in the mid 70s. However, Saturday night into Sunday, our next chance for some decent rainfall moves into the forecast.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Put your tray tables up, turn vacation mode on, and fly away to where you belong, the beach. Myrtle Beach is 60 miles where you can let your best self shine. Start planning at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
Hal Gill here for my good friends at Dunkin'. You know I love Dunkin', and I'm wicked happy that Dunks is all over Nashville. A newly remodeled next-gen Dunkin' location is at 1645 West Main Street in Lebanon. Of course, Dunks has the best coffee, but they have new spring items available as well. Try the salted caramel cream cold brew, shamrock macchiato made with Irish cream swirl, and the roasted tomato toast with hummus or avocado. They also have amazing chocolate croissants. So go treat yourself, go get your Dunks.
Hey guys, it's the new year. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? I've yet to meet anyone that enjoys timing those intimate moments around a pill. Well, now you don't have to. The advanced wave technology at Hillside Medical has been shown by Cambridge University and the Cleveland Clinic to restore and even regrow blood vessels. It can improve circulation and eliminate erectile dysfunction. No pills and no side effects. If you're ready to put a stop to your ED, call us in the next 2 minutes and you'll receive a consultation, assessment, and blood flow ultrasound free, plus a special gift that produces immediate results in the bedroom. You're going to love that. Trust me. This is a $600 value, free to callers now. 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, get rid of your ED and get that spark back. Call Hillside Medical now to qualify. 615-576-5000.
For the love of the climb. For the love of the fall. For the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe of Darren, Donick, and Chase. I started my radio career as an intern right here at ESPN 1025 The Game. Now we're looking for our next great batch of interns. You think that's you? Send your resume to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply today.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things out. Ooh.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year one?
Wake up and hang out with Robbie and Rexroad. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and The Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
No, like I think that Brian's opposite. I've gone on record with that. You know, you see all of the news that's on, all of the speculation that's out there. And, you know, part of my job is to stay on top of that. But we haven't had any discussions with any other teams about any other quarterbacks.
There you go. John Robinson says, hey, you know, we see the news. We understand, but no, we haven't talked to any other teams about quarterbacks. And Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, came out this week and said they haven't talked to anybody about Aaron Rodgers. But again, as Get Up on ESPN reminded me this morning, 4 days until the tag deadline, and Aaron said that he would have his answer somewhere around the tag deadline because of Devontae Adams and everything else. So let me ask this question. What do you think Aaron Rodgers is ultimately going to do? And do you think it's going to happen by Tuesday, which is the tag deadline?
All along, he has said that he is going to make his decision by the tag deadline for Devontae Adams' sake. He's a liar. However, I mean, like, that's really bad. That's like really down and dirty if he doesn't make his decision by the tag deadline. I mean, that puts the Packers in an incredibly difficult situation. And I know it's something that he has done before, and if he chooses to stay in Green Bay, it's something that he will do again. But that would be bad. But I ultimately do think when we did our quarterback carousel, I put Aaron Rodgers in Denver. I still stand by that. I don't think he'll stay in Green Bay.
So do you think he'll go to the Packers and say, I would like out, and then Denver would be the one that makes the move in order to get him? Or do you think he'd go to Denver and say, hey, or go to Green Bay and say, hey, I'd like to go to Denver? Or do you think he'd go to Green Bay and say, I'd like to go to these 6 teams. Here's my list of teams. Which one do you think is going to happen?
I think he would give a list of teams.
Okay. Do you think the Titans would be on the list?
Yes.
Okay. If, because remember, Taylor Lewan called this clickbait the other day, even though, I mean, I would just, at least I show up to do my job. You know, at least I do it every day. But if Aaron puts the Titans on a list then is Aaron to the Titans. Because again, we said 99.5% chance it's not going to happen.
Yes.
If Aaron puts the Titans on a list, then are we allowed by the Taylor Lewan content gods who tell you what you're allowed to talk about and what you're not allowed to talk about? Then are we allowed to talk about Aaron to the Titans as a legitimate possibility at that point?
I don't care what Taylor Lewan has to say about our content choices. If Aaron Rodgers, two-time reigning MVP of the National Football League, has the Tennessee Titans on a short list of where he would like to go play football, abso-freaking-lutely, we are going to talk about that.
So do you think that this is going to happen? Because you said you think he's going to give Green Bay a list, and you think the Titans are going to be on the list. So if he gives Green Bay a list, the Titans are on the list. And let me say this. Robinson can say whatever he wants about the fact that, hey, we haven't talked to any teams yet, and Ryan's our guy. But if Aaron Rodgers puts you on a list, don't you owe it to the fans to call?
Yes, I don't think that it would be very smart GMing to just completely ignore that. I mean, if the Titans have another plan at quarterback and they're good with it and they would like to move forward with it, then entertaining it and picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, we're gonna move on and do something else." That's one thing. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it. I think if you have a plan moving forward and then Aaron Rodgers knocks on your door and says, "Hey, I'm interested," you throw that plan out the window. But they at least have to entertain it.
I just think that they would hate Aaron Rodgers so much.
I think they would too.
I think Vrabel and Robinson would hate Aaron Rodgers. Let's go to your phone. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025 on our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
One texter texts in and says, "We waited 3 years for Favre to move on so a young Rodgers could play. That wore me out. Now Rodgers is playing the Favre role, and Love is playing the young Rodgers role in the sequel, and it's wearing me out this time as well."
Yeah, but the difference is apparently I think most people think Jordan Love stinks. Like we talked about this.
I think the Packers might think that Jordan Love stinks.
So I don't know. I don't follow Jordan Love. In the one game that he played, I kind of watched. We were doing a pregame show, and so it was on the wall, and I was kind of keeping up with it, but I didn't really watch the one Jordan Love game. So I don't know if Jordan Love's terrible or not. Robbie Stanley, who I think cares about these things. I clearly do not care whether or not Jordan Love's any good. Could not give two poops about the Packers. Robbie's obviously a diehard Packer fan. Robbie Stanley told me that Jordan Love is atrocious and the Packers know it. So that makes me think that they know he's not very good, and that's the difference. Was when they waited on Brett Favre, and then Brett Favre retired, and they made Aaron the quarterback, and then Brett Favre ended up going to the Jets, and all of that nonsense. When that happened, that was because they knew, hey, you know what? Aaron's pretty good. It's time for Aaron to get out there. If this is year 3 and they're like, nah, Jordan Love stays on the bench, yeah, he might be terrible. And that's where I don't think it's comparable, but I do understand, again, Favre was kind of kicking his feet out the door, and it appears that Rodgers doing the same thing. What else we got in the text line?
Another texter texts in and says about the NFL Combine. Says, what if an athlete runs slower with his football gear on compared to others? Would that impact your decision-making?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. There's no way to be able to judge that. So I think it was Antonio Brown ran like a 4.6 or something at the Combine.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as speed is concerned, I think Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick. But as far as speed is concerned, with his pads on in the game, his footwork, Antonio Brown is one of the smoothest runners in the NFL in the last 15 years. So it's again, his combine speed's not that good, but his other speed is pretty good. There is a difference there. I say that in saying that I used to be of the belief that who cares what guys do in shorts and T-shirts. Troy Williamson ran an unbelievable combine, a wide receiver out of South Carolina in 2005. And he went in the top 10 to Minnesota because he ran such a fast 40 time. And I'm not sure the guy ever caught a pass in the NFL. But I do remember in the 2020 draft when we talked about it every day, and Floyd really laid out for us how important the 40 was, and talking about how, well, if you take that guy, then you know that he'll be able to cover X, Y, and Z. But if you take this guy, and so I do think 40 time matters. Everybody runs the same. You wear the same pads basically in the NFL. as you do, that everybody else wears. So it's kind of the same. So I guess that's my way of saying I understand what the texture's bringing up, but for the most part, like Chris Olave is faster than all these other wide receivers. And he'll be faster when his pads are on in the NFL. What's next?
Another texter says, what do you do if the Titans are winning like last year, but Ryan Tannehill is struggling?
And what? Like Logan Woodside's my backup quarterback?
I guess operate under those circumstances.
Then you have to do the same. You're not going to put Logan Woodside in the game. Like that, I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to do that. Now, if the Titans drafted a quarterback in the first round and that guy's the backup, let's say the Titans trade up for Malik Willis, because I thought this was interesting. Mel Kiper Jr. had Josh Allen ranked as his number one quarterback entering the 2018 draft. And there was a lot of talk about Baker and Darnold and Allen and Rosen. And he had Josh Allen the number one quarterback. And Buffalo had made the playoffs the year before, and they were towards the back end of the first round. And I was thinking about this today, which is, what if Buffalo thought like Mel Kiper that Josh Allen was the number one player in this draft, the 2018 draft?
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo is sitting back at the end of the first round. In fact, I'm going to pull up the 2018 draft because I do wonder. I wonder if they went into that night thinking that there was no chance they would get Josh Allen. Like, they saw going into the draft what Josh Allen is today. They were like, that's what we think that kid's going to be. Because, again, all these teams rank all these guys differently. So Cleveland ranks Baker Mayfield as the number one guy. But what if, here Josh Allen is ranked as their number one guy? And I believe Buffalo traded with Tampa, and they moved up to 12, Buffalo did, and then they moved up to 7, and they drafted Josh Allen. And they traded a lot, including their left tackle, a guy by the name of Cordy Glenn. They traded to Cincinnati in order to move up with the Bengals and then move up with Tampa Bay and draft Josh Allen. Well, if the Titans love Malik Willis and say he's there at 12, do you not go into this draft thinking there's no chance you have to get Malik Willis, and then he's still sitting there, and it's like, all right, you got to go because you think this guy is the next guy? And I don't know how you approach that. I don't know how, and I think that Brandon Beane, the general manager in Buffalo, is the most underrated guy in the NFL that nobody ever talks about. Because I think he's been great for Buffalo, a franchise that has been wretched and has turned it around. But that's some kind of strategy to be able to pull that one off. 615-737-1025 is our number on this Fireball Hot Take Friday. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, all the draft experts told us one thing before last night. Now there's a different tune, and it affects the Titans for a couple of reasons. That's next, Stillman and Company, right here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Fireball Cinema Whiskey. Nothing goes down so smooth and tastes as great as ice-cold Fireball Cinema Whiskey. There is no better way to ignite the night than to do it with Fireball Whiskey because, again, it's the perfect shot for any occasion. So whether you're celebrating a birthday or the fact that the summer's almost here or that it's springtime or the combine, whatever, just get Fireball Cinema Whiskey. Night to night, please do responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinema Whiskey.
The voice of reason.
274 yards, 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. You're not going to win a game that way.
The voice of the fan.
I'm tired of let's just give it to a quarterback.
The voice of Nashville sports is your home of Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Join us in Smashville to experience hard hits, big goals, and golden moments. Your Nashville Predators are in action at Bridgestone Arena, and now is the time to get your tickets. Introducing the Paint the Town Preds pack, complete with 3 games, a $25 Yeehaw Brewing Company gift card, 2022 Stanley Cup playoff priority, and more. Visit NashvillePredators.com/paint to secure your pack. These are the games you don't want to miss as the Preds make their push to the playoffs. Join us in Painting the Town Preds and secure your ticket package today. NashvillePredators.com/paint.
For the love of Tennessee at dawn. For the love of the fight. For the love of having nowhere else you'd rather be. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
If you missed the latest edition of Preds Insiders,
I thought last week was an awesome week for Nashville Predators hockey. I thought it was an awesome week for hockey in this town. And sure, you would have liked them to go 3 for 3 and get all 6 of those points and really put an exclamation point on the week. But even without that, you win 2 out of the 3 games. You get 4 out of the 6 possible points. You win the Western Conference matchup against Dallas, which is more important than the loss to an Eastern Conference team in Tampa Bay anyway. I think a lot went really well for the Predators last week. And it was one of those things, too, where you look around and say, I think we learned some things about the hockey team. I mean, it was not an easy week last week for the Predators. It was a fun week. It was a memorable week. It was all those things, but by no means was it easy. You start off last Tuesday going on the road against Florida. The Preds are down 3 separate times in that game. They come back to tie it, and then you win the game in regulation.
search Preds Insiders today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition releases every Monday at 6 on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
The Electronic Express tax refund sale is going on now. Get huge savings in every department, including 4K TVs, mattresses, computers and tablets, housewares, smart home, and more. We have all of your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN,
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
a Cromwell media station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. There's this weird narrative streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. I'm on remote Caroline Fenton in our Hillside Medical Game Studios, Fireball Hot Take Friday. There's this weird narrative that has come out about the anti-Tannehill association. The
Tannehill Tattletales?
non-boohoo. I think that's kind of lame. Like the Boohoo Tannehill crew, like at least, is like kind of funny and
Because
creative.
you made it up?
Kinda... No, it's just way better than Tattletales. That's like, ha ha, whatever. But I digress. That is that the anti-Tannehill angst started after the Cincinnati game. Derek Mason was peddling this propaganda the other day in the midday show when he was talking about, Ryan messed up the Cincinnati game, so that's why people are mad about it. It's one game. And that's just not true. We've been all over Tannehill all year because he had stunk it up even since training camp where he's turned the ball over too much. And then the third game of the year, and then they lost to the Jets, and we've been on Tannehill. That was not a one-game thing. Now, the one game happened to be the most important game, and it happened to be the game that he screwed up the most. But it wasn't like that was a revelation that we love Tannehill at the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, and then he screwed up the Bengals game, and it was like, well, now we don't like it. No. This has been a long time coming. And I say this because I was arguing with people during the year, and I remember this was like right around Christmas time. And I was talking to somebody who covers the team locally, and he is very much a Tannehill apologist, and his name is Buck. And I was talking to him about, again, about how Tannehill's screwing it up. And he was like, you tell me who's better, and you tell me who could be a better quarterback in this draft class. And I'm like, I have no freaking clue about this draft class. And anybody at that point in December whose name wasn't like senior executive director of player personnel or Mel Kiper or whatever that was sitting there watching, nobody had a clue about any of these quarterbacks. And at least the one thing I could tell you, the honesty is that I never pretended to have any feelings one way or another on this quarterback class, no matter how much the experts told me it was a bad class. So we go into the combine, we go into the offseason, and everybody's talking about how this is a bad quarterback class. Bad class. These guys are, okay, fine, whatever. You say it doesn't mean it's true. So I'm watching last night. I'm seeing these guys weigh in. I'm seeing these guys throw the football. I'm watching Desmond Ridder. I'm watching, and I'm like, oh my God, these guys aren't that bad. These guys can't be that bad. These guys can't be as bad as a couple of years ago where Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, and Dwayne Haskins went in the first round. And only Kyler Murray can kind of play a little bit. And he might be the second most obnoxious quarterback in the NFL to Aaron Rodgers. So I'm sitting here like, okay, let's see. So go on ESPN this morning, and ESPN Plus has an article. And Jordan Reed, who is now one of their new, it used to be McShay and Kiper. Now it's McShay, Kiper, Jordan Reed, and Matt Miller. Make of it what you will. Jordan Reed, the draft gurus at ESPN, were talking about the quarterbacks and how they performed. And they have their biggest risers. How other top prospects fared on day one. Jordan Reed writes, Malik Willis. Similar to the practices at the Senior Bowl, Willis showed off his arm strength at the combine. He had lots of velocity behind his throws and accuracy over the middle, and even connected on some deep shots. His best throw of the evening was a go ball to Garrett Wilson down the left sideline, putting enough touch on it so the Ohio State receiver could run under it. Willis currently stands as my QB1, and because of his tools and potential, I still believe that he will be a top 10 selection. So we went from all the gurus telling us all year, bad quarterback class, these quarterbacks aren't any good, and Malik Willis, with no pressure facing him in the combine, unloads a rocket to a wide receiver not wearing pads, not being covered by a defensive back who catches the ball. And now we got the ESPN analyst saying, I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. And here's what's crazy. I don't think he's wrong. I think there's a chance that both Pickett and Malik Willis end up in the top 10. And you would say, wait a minute, Mel Kiper's latest mock draft has Kenny Pickett at 11, Malik Willis at 20, and Matt Corral at 32. There's no way that all of a sudden these quarterbacks, but you have to remember, they're quarterbacks. And at the end of the day, we live in a society where Daniel Jones went with the 6th overall pick. And after the initial shock of, oh my God, nothing changed. So I thought yesterday the quarterbacks put on a good enough performance. They weighed in at a certain, height, weight, arm strength, whatever. They did enough yesterday to where these teams are going to convince themselves to draft these guys to be the future of their franchises. And this now affects the Titans in multiple ways. Number one, we know Ryan Tannehill is 34 years old. So if you are going to plan for the future and draft a quarterback this year and sit him on the bench like the Steelers did when they had Tommy Maddox as their quarterback, and I think Tannehill's kind of like a Tommy Maddox. So when they had Tommy Maddox as their starter, they drafted Ben Roethlisberger. He was the 3rd quarterback taken in that draft. And pick them. Even though Mel Kiper's latest mock draft that came out before the combine says you can sit there and pick them, I'm telling you, you can't. So you're going to have to move up. Maybe it's Ritter, who was fantastic yesterday. So now what? You got to move up to take him. When we thought yesterday before he performed, maybe they could even move back to pick the quarterback. The second area in which the quarterback performance yesterday affects the Titans is that now more good players are going to drop in this draft, and you might be able to get a really, really good NFL potential starter with the 26th pick. And I'll use another example, and I'll use last year. Last year, look at the quarterbacks. Who had a good season? Trevor Lawrence didn't have a good season. Zach Wilson didn't have a good season. Trey Lance didn't play. Justin Fields, coach and general manager, got fired, and Mac Jones made the playoffs. And he was the 5th quarterback taken with the 15th overall pick. Well, when all those quarterbacks go up, and Mac Jones, and I like Mac Jones, and I think he may have a decent NFL career, and I think he's in the right spot and everything else. Mac Jones was not the 15th best player in that draft. But again, quarterbacks always get elevated. And all they got to do is show you a little something, and they're going to get pushed in there. just like yesterday when they showed you just a little something. They showed those teams. And so now Malik Willis is going in the top 10. But you go back to last year's draft, Mac Jones goes at 15. That means that there are other guys that were available to be picked, whether it's Najee Harris, whether it's Jalen Phillips, whomever, these rookies. And who knows how these guys are going to be long-term. But guys fall back at a draft when quarterbacks are elevated up. So Chris Olave, for example, ran well at the combine yesterday. He's moving up. Treylon Burks from Arkansas, who many considered a top 15 pick, runs a 4.55, runs a 4.55. He drops down. So with the quarterbacks performing well, there is perhaps a better player that will fall to the Titans with the 26th pick. Or in a good receiver draft, you may be able to trade down and take a good receiver there. But what I'm telling you is not going to happen is this idea that, you know what, this is such a bad quarterback class. There's going to be no good quarterbacks that are taken because last night at the combine, Malik Willis performed well enough, and these GMs and coaches are going to convince themselves that it's their only choice. So you know what? Screw it. Let's make the pick. Everybody keeps comparing this to 2013. E.J. Manuel was the first quarterback taken in the draft. I believe it was in the teens, and he was the only quarterback taken in the first round. And everybody says, this will be the first draft since then when there's not a quarterback in the top 10. Malik Willis in a cutoff T-shirt gets out there, throws a couple of footballs, and all of a sudden, ESPN's guru says he's back in the top 10. That's the quarterback position. And so, again, we look at the Titans at 26. We say, hey, could this be the year that they go out and get their guy? Well, it's going to be hard. As of last week, Mel Kiper Jr. predicted Malik Willis would last until the 20th pick. The Titans are sitting at 26. If they love Malik Willis, and I don't know if they do or they don't, and they're not going to tell anybody, and that's how, if they love Malik Willis, all they would have had to do is move from 26 to 19. That probably would have meant a third-round pick in next year's draft. So your first-round pick and a third in next year's draft, and you're picking at 19, and you can get Malik Willis. Well, now Malik Willis will probably cost you your first-round pick in next year's draft and probably that same third-round pick. That's the power of the combine. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. What do we make of the way that the quarterbacks performed yesterday, how the draft gurus was ranking them then, how the draft gurus are talking about them now, and what that means not just for the draft, but also for the Titans? 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Now, there is one thing that I do want to caution you all about as far as the quarterback play at the combine is concerned. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company right here on a Fireball Hot Take Friday. It's ESPN 1025 The Game. We're streaming the Game Nashville app.
Do you have that one person or thing that just makes you mad? Join us every Friday at noon on the DDC for You Just Made the List. Fueled by Parman Energy. Visit ParmanEnergy.com, your one-stop petroleum solution, and TriStar Movie on the DDC on ESPN 1025 The Game.
You just made the list.
Put your tray tables up, turn vacation mode on, and fly away to where you belong, the beach. Myrtle Beach is 60 miles where you can let your best self shine. Start planning at visitmyrtlebeach.com.
Save lives and score big with Middle Tennessee's community blood supplier, Blood Assurance. Donate at Blood Assurance locations in Cool Springs, Columbia, Clarksville, or Hermitage between February 21st and March 6th, and you will be entered to win 2 tickets to the Nashville Predators game against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday, March 12th at Bridgestone Arena. Blood Assurance is giving 4 sets of tickets away.
To schedule your appointment, visit bloodassurance.org/schedule. Thank you for being someone's hero.
Looking for a big diamond? Genesis Diamonds introduces our Elite Collection. All new for 2020. These are large, rare diamonds in the top 1% of the world. 3 carat, 4 carat, 5 carat, up to 10 carat precious diamonds for the most discriminating buyers who appreciate quality. Genesis owners travel worldwide, tapping a vast network of diamond cutters, carefully hand-selecting each of these remarkable diamonds. We invite you to view this premium collection of GIA-certified diamonds, rounds, cushion cuts, emerald gold cuts, even fancy colored diamonds in size and quality never before seen here. And to showcase these exquisite stones, only Genesis has the finest handcrafted rings from all the world-class designers. If 2020 is the year you're upgrading her original diamond, or you just want to go big for the first time, no need to travel to New York or Los Angeles or Antwerp. Genesis Diamonds' elite collection of large, precious diamonds is here in Nashville. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
312 Pizza Company is Nashville's authentic Chicago pizzeria, and they're now hiring. Work for a family-owned business and be a part of their incredible team. 312 Pizza Company is hiring for all positions, including host, waitstaff, bartenders, cooks, and more. 312 Pizza Company offers health insurance and paid time off to full-time employees. Contact Kimberly at 615-730-7888 or email at contact@312pizzaco.com. 312 is an equal opportunity employer.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save me, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
Interact with Stillman and Company. Call or text the show at 615-737-1025. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
The quarterbacks we've been talking about, Desmond Ridder hasn't really been towards the top of that list, but he was outstanding today. It started with him running extremely fast. We showed him simulcast right next to Marcus Mariota to give you an idea of what type of an athlete he is. And footwork-wise, smooth. The ball jumped out of his hand. To me, he was very intriguing with what he displayed today on the field here in Indianapolis. I think grabbed the attention of a lot of people on the heels of what I was told were solid interviews with teams. As a three-time captain, is impressive guy.
That was Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network. Boy, he loved Desmond Ridder yesterday. We were talking about Desmond Ridder. We thought the Titans could trade down into the second round and draft Desmond Ridder. This time yesterday, when we had TD on for the TD Power Hour, we were talking about it like they could move down and take Desmond Ridder. And not only that, after yesterday's performance, I'm not convinced that they can. Now, there is one thing, and I'm going to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but there is one thing. I am convinced that after yesterday's performance, like Malik Willis is going to the top 10 of the draft. And that you would say, well, it's one combine workout. And that's how some of these NFL teams operate. And sometimes I think it comes from owners who want to be excited about stuff. Maybe the quarterback class isn't as bad as we thought. But the other thing that bothered me was I read through the ESPN breakdown of the combine. Malik Willis, good. Kenny Pickett, his small hands, by the way. Yesterday, I thought that was a bad look for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, good. Sam Howell, good. Quote, based on what evaluators have told me, I'm still of the belief that Sam Howell will be a first-round pick in April. Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati, good. Quote, yes, there are some accuracy issues on tape, but those can be corrected with improved mechanics. What can't be coached is the kind of speed. With the quarterback talent pool expected to dry out in the first 20 selections, we might have another passer arriving on the round one stage. So there is a potential that 5 guys will go in the first round, right? Between Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, and Matt Corral, who did not participate because he's hurt.
Correct.
So the 4 guys, the ESPN write-up on the 4 quarterbacks yesterday, good, and good. Well, they can't all be good, right? Like the history of the NFL would tell us that there's not going to be 4 good quarterbacks taken out of this draft.
Well, a good review from the NFL Combine doesn't necessarily mean that they will be good quarterbacks in the NFL. Like in this article, I believe it's Jordan Reed who wrote these breakdowns of the quarterbacks.
So it says at the bottom like who wrote it, but it's him and Mel and it's all.
Okay, so all of them. They do point out some of the weaknesses with these quarterbacks. So Sam Howell, for example, talks about his accuracy with the deep ball, that it says the part that remains a constant challenge for Howell is taking snaps from under center. They do highlight some of the weaknesses that these quarterbacks have, some of the challenges that they've been facing.
Sure.
Overall, yes, the overall vibe is good, bad, but this is how the bad can be fixed. But I don't think that necessarily means that all 4 of these quarterbacks that they wrote write-ups of, including Matt Corral, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good in the NFL.
I know, but it said, hey, top 10 pick from Malik Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Pickett's hands won't hold him back, which I think is ridiculous. I think it should hold him back. Sam Howell,
You think it
first
should
round
or
pick.
it will?
I think it should. It probably won't. Somebody will talk themselves into it. Desmond Ridder put himself into the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Howell, mid-first round. They're all first rounders now.
But
So
that
it
doesn't mean
went
they're going to
from-
be good in the NFL.
No. But I'm saying it went from like last week of there might not be a quarterback selected in the top 15 to now there's 4 quarterbacks that go in the first round this year.
And maybe 5.
Holy hell.
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5 because Corral didn't perform and Mel has him at 32 in his latest mock. And here's what's crazy too about all this. Like, let me use the example of a good quarterback draft and a bad quarterback draft. 1983 was a great quarterback draft. Elway goes number 1. But then after that, you've got Todd Blackledge and Tony Eason and Ken O'Brien. And then Jim Kelly goes, obviously in the Hall of Fame. And Dan Marino's at the end. And obviously Dan Marino, all-time great. And so that's a good quarterback draft because all those quarterbacks were available. The next year was a bad quarterback draft. And Boomer Esiason was the first quarterback taken in the second round of the 84 draft. Well, Boomer Esiason was a league MVP and went to a Super Bowl. So my point is, for Cincinnati, who took Boomer Esiason, it's a better quarterback draft than for the Patriots, who took Tony Eason, because Tony Eason sucked. Or Kansas City, who took Todd Blackledge, because Todd Blackledge, while I think he's a good commentator for football games on college, was a terrible quarterback in the NFL. And that, I think it was the Heath Schuler draft. I think it was 95 maybe. And I do feel like I'm an old man talking here now, being like, back in my day in 63. But the Heath Schuler draft, there were 2 quarterbacks at the top of the draft, Heath Schuler and Trent Dilfer. And obviously Schuler was a bust and Dilfer had an okay career. But the thing that's crazy about all that is Gus Frerotte was taken by Washington. Schuler was taken as the first quarterback off the board. Gus Frerotte was taken in the same draft, like in the 7th, 8th, or some crazy round. And Gus Frerotte ended up being the long-term starter in Washington and not Heath Schuler, who was the first quarterback off the board. So I get wrapped up when I watch the combine and the draft, and I hear all these analysts. It's like every pick is a good pick, and you know that's not the case. I like the old Mel Kiper Jr., who just went ballistic when the Colts took Trev Alberts in the top 10, and it got the general manager of the Colts to freak out about how Mel Kiper's a bum. That's what I like. You know, honesty. Like, you should write in there, like, do you really think Sam Howell is a first-round pick? Because I have no idea if Sam Howell's a first-round pick. But if you're like a draft guru, you got to be like, yo, this guy's going to stink in the NFL. This guy's going to be good. This guy's not going to be good. I wish when I watched the combine on TV a little bit that I could see some of this, of the guy saying, like, you know, this guy, a lot of people have him mocked very highly, but I don't think he's very good. That is what I would like.
But I think a lot of, especially draft, this time of year, draft gurus and draft analysis is very reactive. It could be one teeny tiny thing. Kenny Pickett was a Heisman Trophy finalist, and people thought he was going to be the first quarterback off the board, a top 10 quarterback, and this was just a month ago. And now all of a sudden he's got small hands, and Malik Willis is the new hot quarterback on the street. And then there was a video that went viral of him, very sweet, helping a homeless person on the street. Now Malik Willis is, you know, all the rave. Malik Willis is going to be the first quarterback taken.
Malik Willis
I
because
do
of that.
like Malik Willis. It's a very nice gesture, absolutely. I don't want to take anything away from it. But it's all very reactive. You know, Desmond Ridder runs a 4.55 40. Now all of a sudden he's the hot quarterback on the street because he can run and he's quick. I think you have to take all of it with a grain of salt because it's very much so recency bias. It's not, you know, the fact that Kenny Pickett was a Heisman finalist isn't even in anyone's near rearview mirror. You know, nobody's thinking about that right now. Everyone's thinking about the combine. Everyone's thinking about his small hands because that's the most recent news out there. But I think
he does have small hands.
He does have small hands, but when you're an NFL general manager, You don't think about the most recent things. You have to look at the entire scope of it. You have to look at it from a macro point of view.
I am anti-small hands.
Okay.
Like, as far as quarterbacks.
Size matters.
I will tell you why. Because I remember a couple years ago during the Combine, we were doing the radio show, and it was during a break, and I asked about, like, they were going over hand measurements. This might have been Joe Burrow. Because remember, Joe Burrow has a 9-inch hand, and he tweeted something hilarious out like, oh, I'm going to retire from football because of my small hands. And I remember saying to Floyd, like, hand size, does that matter? And I remember he looked at me like, he had this interesting look where, like, his eyes kind of opened a little bit, and he kind of looked at me like, I remember when I bought my first house, and I had a week to look over the HOA documents, and I never did. And then I had to discuss whether or not, and so then I had to decide whether or not I was willing to accept these HOA documents. And I was supposed to, like, give them to the lawyer, and I never did. And I asked Floyd, I was like, what do you think I should do? And he's like, and his eyes, like, get big, and he's like, I mean, you got to give that to the lawyer, man. Like, you got to do that.
That's
Every
something you
now
have
and
to
then,
do.
he would give me, like, that kind of, and he looked at me like his eyes got big, and he was like, oh, no, you fumble the ball now, small hands. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, that, you know, like, basically he's telling me, yeah, I value hand size. Like, that was something that he was. And now Steve McNair, I mean, his hands were like a first baseman's mitt. You know, I mean, it was Javon Curse. I ran into Javon a couple of months ago, and every time I shake Javon Curse's hand, every time I see, hey, you know, whatever, I shake his hand. Now look, I think I probably have small hands. I've never measured them.
That's a good thing you're not a quarterback in the NFL then.
Very good thing. Now, I think I'd be a good quarterback, but that's just me. I'm kidding.
Take it back. Take it back.
But again, I don't play quarterback. But, like, Javon, his hands are so big. I'm like, goodness gracious. So, I mean, it does matter. I do care about this stuff. Let's go to your phone. 615-737-1025. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do we have?
Mike texts in and prefaces this by saying that he is a jaded fan with low expectations and says, in my opinion, the day after the draft, no matter what happens, we will be saying, what was J-Rob thinking?
So, I will say this. The one pick that he made that I think everybody was expecting and was excited about was Rashaan Evans. And what's Rashaan Evans done? Rashaan Evans had an okay tenure with the Titans, which tells you the draft. I mean, you know, the draft is it's so funny how, like, wrapped up people get into this, and it's such a crapshoot. And there's so many other factors that play into it, like obviously injuries and, you know, but like the right coach and the right, you know,
stability of the franchise and what you're drafted by.
Very rarely is there a pick where that guy could play on any team and be an absolute superstar no matter what. I think Micah Parsons is an example this year of a guy who's like, okay, yeah, you won the draft because you went out and picked Micah Parsons. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get back into your phones. 615-737-1025. I watched the Combine last night. Caroline watched the Combine last night. Is the Combine really that good of a TV product? Are people really getting wrapped into it? Because one long time national media guy has a serious problem with it. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company. Right here, it is Fireball Hot Take Friday, 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. If you want to get into the program, let me tell all the fine folks that ESPN 1025 The Game is Nashville's official home for NASCAR. Tune in this Sunday at 1:30 for the Pennzoil 400 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Also, get set for the race with Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 a.m.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. And this is Smashville.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the hat.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Wow, I've got a whole 5 minutes before my next call. What should I do? Grab a snack? Nah. Text with mom? That's more than a 5-minute proposition. I have been looking at getting a new bank account. Is that even possible?
Can't believe you have extra time? You won't believe what you can do with it.
Open a Regions checking account online in as little as 5 minutes. Then enjoy award-winning service and banking tools and tech that help you live in the moment. Learn more at regions.com/live in the moment. Regions Bank, member FDIC.
Hey, it's me, Chase McCabe, and listen, you know that I love BetMGM. I use it all the time, and I talk about it all the time. They are the king of sportsbooks, and they unleash the spirit of Las Vegas with BetMGM rewards. Every time you make a wager at BetMGM, you can earn BetMGM rewards points that you can redeem for online bonus credits like free bets and risk-free tokens. If you're planning a trip to Vegas, like I am, you can also convert your BetMGM points into MGM rewards points that you can use towards dining, shows, and hotel rooms at over 20 MGM Resorts properties located on the Las Vegas Strip and nationwide. BetMGM Rewards is sports betting's premier loyalty program featuring exclusive offers, incredible experiences, and valuable perks when you wager on the BetMGM app. Sign up with BetMGM or log on today and get an even bigger piece of the action with BetMGM Rewards. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Tennessee only. For problem gambling support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789.
Attention veterans of Middle Tennessee. Little Guys Movers wants to put your hard-earned skills and leadership talent to work with your very own Little Guys Movers franchise. Be your own boss and build a team with standards as high as your own, and all while serving your community with the same hustle that you served your country. Use your existing 401k to invest in yourself. Financing options are available. Start a fulfilling, profitable new chapter of your life as a member of a team with 30-plus years of growth and good times at littleguysfranchise.com. That's littleguysfranchise.com.
Erectile dysfunction ruins sex, but it's more than that. It harms otherwise good relationships. It destroys marriages. It can cause depression and anxiety, and it can be extremely hard on a man's self-esteem. This is Kim for the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and if you're suffering with ED, if it's affecting you, I want you to know that if you're like most men, we can treat it and get you back to the man you used to be. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we're ED experts. Our protocols have success rates as high as 90%. We've successfully treated thousands of men in the Music City, and we have a variety of treatment options and treatment combinations that could have you performing like you haven't in years. You could even last up to an hour and experience great sex again that is satisfying for both you and your partner. In treating your health, expertise matters, so make an appointment today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra. Results vary.
Saturday.
One-on-one. Pippen drives around and scores. Give him the bucket and one.
Vanderbilt wraps up their regular season in Oxford against Ole Miss. Coverage begins at 4:30 on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving. Let me tell all the fine folks out there that, what was I supposed to tell the fine folks? Here you go. Let me tell all the fine folks that go to theGameNashville.com/deals. Check out Nashville's best deals. Right now, there are deals for everything from half off the Woodhouse Spa to half off dining at the Mainstay at Hard Rock Cafe, half off Brooklyn Bowl, plus a $50 free with the purchase of $100 in downtown dollars. Check out all of Nashville's best deals now at theGameNashville.com/deals. So the Combine is rolling along. I watched the Combine last night. I flipped back and forth between that and the Grizzlies game against the Celtics because, you know, I'm starting to love Ja Morant, which, by the way, bless you, Caroline. By the way, Ja Morant, I was a little disappointed. It was like Ja got a little nervous on TNT against the Celtics last night, but I was flipping back and forth, but I watched the Combine and I'm watching these dudes run and I'm into it. I am into it. The Combine. Like I got it on right now. I'm watching these linemen, and if you know they're up there, they're trying to do their, and that's it. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to know what that means? And I'm still watching it. So maybe I'm crazy, but I was reading an article, and they were talking about baseball, and you know, baseball is just screwing themselves over every day that this labor negotiation goes on, and that they don't play baseball games. And the weird part about it is now a lot of the guys like the Peter Gammonses of the world. My biggest problem with the baseball media was that they couldn't understand the disconnect between the American fan and the sport because they think baseball's so great. But even like Peter Gammons is writing about how bad, you know, it is for baseball that they're doing this. And somebody said that when it came out the other day that they were going to postpone opening day, that as soon as everybody found out, it was like they turned their attention. Okay, back to what we really care about, the scouting combine. And it's like, how laughable is that? That a major American sport that is considered America's pastime is not going to be played on time. And more people care about like the college players trying out for the NFL, which is like amazing. So I'm listening to Mad Dog, Chris Mad Dog Russo, who Chase actually got to meet the other day, which I'm super jealous about. Chris Mad Dog Russo, Sirius XM, and I'm listening to him. And he's now on First Take with Stephen A. Smith once a week. And I'm listening to him talk about the combine. And this is what he said about watching the combine on TV.
For the life of me, and I understand football is football, and the ratings are probably good, and people there go to they go to Lucas Oil to watch. For the life of me, I don't understand how people. It's like watching poker. How do people find that entertaining? Read a book. I mean, my God, how do people sit there and find how guys run in shorts and how they do the sprints? How they find? Are we that in love with football? What does that have to do with anything come October? I don't understand. Once the game starts, a whole different story. I can't judge a guy by, his shorts and how he runs and how he looks physically, getting ready to do his deal.
I don't disagree with what he said, but I find it very interesting. Is that wrong?
No, because I feel the same way, and I almost feel silly for getting so into the combine because, yeah, if you can run in your underwear, if you can catch a ball when you're the only person on the field and you have no pressure and no defensive backs covering you, that's not really the best indication of how you're going to perform in the NFL. But it's almost like I think we all are so starving for at least a little bit of football content, and we're all.
It's not like we care about the other sports anymore.
Right. I mean, it's not like there's any baseball to look forward to.
Basketball.
Right.
LeBron's mad today. Okay.
Other than John Morant, what do we have? But I think also, I mean, I know I do. I know you do. I know fans value the NFL draft so much. And you don't watch every single player and every single team throughout the college football season. So this is like the biggest little taste that we can have of who is actually going to be a player that teams are interested in. Who's the real deal? Who's not? I understand that it feels a little silly because it doesn't necessarily translate to the game that's on the field come September. But it's just it's just a little bit of something that we can have.
Here's my theory behind a lot of this. So if you read a story about ESPN, which I think is absolutely fascinating, it's kind of about how the network started. Like all the rights for games to all the big sports were already taken by the major networks, NBC, ABC, CBS. And so ESPN is this like fledgling cable channel. And the president of ESPN goes to the NFL owners meetings and they stick an ESPN camera out there because they want the owners to see the ESPN logo. Well, at this point in the 70s, the only people that had cable were rich people. So people that owned NFL teams were, rich. And they knew what ESPN was, but like it showed like softball and Australian rules football and whatever. And Chet Simmons, who was the president of ESPN, goes up to Pete Rozelle, who at the time was commissioner of the NFL, and says, we'd like to broadcast the draft. And like at that point, the draft was held like in a boardroom of a hotel. Just like guys sitting around the table. Who's picking first? Chicago, who you got? We'll take Johnson, the running back out of Central Florida. Okay, all right. Who's picking second? Dallas, go ahead. And they want to televise that. And Pete Rozelle, the commissioner, was like, you want to televise the draft? And ESPN was like, yeah, we want to televise the draft. So they let them televise the draft. And obviously now, the last big draft was the one in Nashville. They had like 500,000 people at it. Football is just that popular that this is the closest thing we have to football, and we all know how important the draft is in terms of, those players and deciding who it is. And what it is it's just revealing behind the curtain a little bit that we kind of get to see what's going on, how our favorite teams and players make these big decisions. When we got into this, when we started the Jared the GM program, Scott Masteller, who was helping consult with the radio station at the time, runs a radio station in Baltimore. He was talking to Floyd, and Floyd was like, I don't know how to do any of the radio stuff. And Scott Masteller told Floyd, that's not your job. That's his job. Your job is to let people in behind the curtain to see like how things are actually done in the NFL. And he was like, oh, I can do that. And that was why, that was kind of part of the thing was you got, crazy over here and you got the expert. And that's all. Like, it's TV, it's football, and football is just so popular that the other sports couldn't do anything like this because they're just not that popular. The NBA has a combine. Anybody watch it? Nope. It's on NBA TV, and nobody watches NBA TV. So, I mean, this is football. Mad Dog asked the question in that clip. He goes, I mean, I know it's football, but do we really care that much about football? The answer? Yes, especially in the South where college football and the NFL are both important. So I'm sorry, Dog, but that's a very old man take. And I got to say, I enjoy the combine. Let's go to Scott, who's been waiting patiently and is up next. Thank you for calling Stillman & Company. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I'm just going to comment on the small hands issue. Small hands is a huge deal. You, especially nowadays, you're probably not old enough to know who this is, but back in the late '80s, Seattle had a quarterback, Dave Craig.
Hey, he backed up Steve McNair. He played on the Tennessee Oilers.
He was probably one of
Tell me
the
who I
most
don't know.
accurate. Okay. He was probably one of the most accurate passers in the league. He did not have a big, strong arm, but he was really accurate. But he led the league in turnovers almost every year. Because if you're in the pocket, and he was this is back in the 80s, everybody was, it was pocket passers. You had, Steve Young and Randall Cunningham and Elway, and they were the only mobile guys. Everybody else was a statue back there. But if he was hit in the pocket, the ball was coming out because he had small hands. If he was in his throwing motion and he was hit during the throwing motion, it was going to loosen your grip and it's going to come off the side of your hand and it's going to be an interception. So I mean, and nowadays, I mean, if you are mobile or running around behind the line, if you're hit and if your hand does not engulf that ball, the ball is coming out. I mean, it's
so I'll make this comparison. Thank you for your call, Scott. I will compare it to you like this. Like, everybody's familiar with baseball, right? I know that nobody watches it anymore, but everybody's familiar with it. Fair?
Fair.
You seen the glove an infielder wears?
It's huge.
No. Those are small. You seen the glove an outfielder wears?
Also,
those are
huge.
big. Because when you're in the infield, they have you get that ball out right away, you're throwing to first base. In the outfield, you want a bigger glove because that allows you to dive for the ball, pick it up off the ground. It allows you to maintain possession with a bigger glove in the outfield. Infield, ball's got to come out quickly, so you want a smaller glove. That's all it is. Apparently, Ian says that Dave Craig has the third most fumbles in NFL history. Guys, Tannehill fumbled the ball 10 times last year.
Small hands, Tannehill.
Tannehill has small hands.
And what's one of our biggest fears whenever the Titans play in cold weather? Tannehill's hands. And it's a legitimate concern.
Oh, don't tell Twitter that, though. I said that. I tweeted that out during the Green Bay game a couple of years ago when Tannehill got his rear. Tannehill was freaking awful. And I tweeted this out during the Green Bay game. And I mean, Twitter was so mad. That's like Corey Curtis today being like, yeah, I asked who's easier to troll, you or Buck. And I'm like, well, that's just people just don't like me more because I just tell the truth. And this was when Tannehill was like untouchable as far as criticism was concerned. And it was like, oh yeah, the small hands. I'm like, I'm telling you, like, small hands matters. Just saying.
Size matters.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will get back into your phones. I know that I am like the guy that everybody thinks that I just absolutely hate everything about Ryan Tannehill, which is not true. But there's a difference between accepting that Tannehill's probably going to be the quarterback next year and the reality with which the world discusses it. And today, oh my goodness, I could not believe myself. That's next. Stillman & Company. It's ESPN 102.5 The Game.
from the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
The weekend looking pretty good. Temperatures will remain quite warm on Saturday with highs in the mid-70s under mostly cloudy skies. Scattered showers possible for Sunday. Highs remain in the mid-70s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
When it comes to your credit card, Discover believes in having real people available 24/7 to help answer your questions. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
For the love of the climb. For the love of the fall. For the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is. For the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Hey everybody, Robbie Stanley here to tell you about my friends at Jasper's as the neighborhood bar and restaurant to catch the next Preds game. Jasper's is located on West End Avenue and offers a fun atmosphere with a game room, TVs, and a large bar and lounge area. Plus they offer free parking. That's right, free parking on West End, and offer specials for every Preds game day, including $10 smash burgers and $3 bottled domestics. So come on down to Jasper's next game day for happy hour every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. and 2-for-1 beers all day on Sundays. Just tell them that Robbie Stanley sent you.
Meshing journalism.
They are 2 scores behind you. The math says that increases your chances of winning.
With sports fandom.
I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, just emotionally numb from Titans and Packers.
And sarcasm.
You guys are the worst.
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode are Robbie and Rexrode. No duh. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Stillman and Company is on. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
So, in life, there's always people, they have their agendas, they have their thoughts, they have their this, they have their that. I'm watching television today. I could not believe this. Mike Tannenbaum, the former general manager, is at the Combine. And, when you're the former general manager, everybody wants to know, okay, who needs a quarterback? Who's this? Who's that? Who's whatever? And so, according to ESPN's Mike Tannenbaum, there was a graphic. Teams that need a quarterback. Here are the teams that need a starter, according to Mike Tannenbaum. Steelers, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Lions, Commanders, Buccaneers, Saints, Panthers. Now, let me state for the record, the Colts have a starter, but they obviously just don't like him. But I'm okay with them being on the list because the Colts have made it obvious they don't like him. The Texans, I thought Davis Mills is the quarterback of the Texans. Am I wrong on that?
No, I don't think you're wrong.
Are they looking to upgrade Davis Mills? Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, who knows?
He started most of the game. He started most of the second half of the season.
Right.
Yeah, but then they fired everybody, so I don't know.
That's fair.
Maybe they'll eventually move on from him, but I do feel like week 1 next year, Davis Mills is the quarterback of the Texans. He's got the Lions need a starter. Now, we went over this earlier in the week, how similar Jared Goff and Ryan Tannehill's seasons were last year. Tannehill just threw more interceptions. Then he's got teams that need to upgrade or have a little bit of uncertainty. Cleveland, for instance, is on this list. Cleveland, Miami, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Seattle, Green Bay, and the Giants. Anybody notice a team missing off that list?
One Tennessee Titans.
How can you not put the Titans on that list? If you're going to put the Cleveland Browns, who have all this money guaranteed next year to Baker Mayfield, if you're going to put the Cleveland Browns on that list, or you're going to put the Dolphins, who did the same thing the Titans did at the Combine, which was Tua is our guy. If you're going to put the Eagles, who made the playoffs with a second-year quarterback in Jalen Hurts on the list. You're going to put the Falcons, who, like the Titans, have an inordinate amount of money wrapped up in a quarterback who's not that great, on the list. If you're going to put the Seahawks, who have a franchise Super Bowl winning quarterback at quarterback on the list.
Albeit his future is uncertain in Seattle.
Okay. But, I mean, come on. What
well, I'll ask you.
How did Ryan Tannehill not make this list. And I know
Who made the list?
One of the chairs of the Boo-hoo Tannehill crew. And I get
The
it.
vice president of the Boo-hoo Tannehill crew.
People are going to say that this is me. They're going to be like, this is Jared Stillman again, mad about Tannehill. That's all he ever does is he gets worked up. No. It is the lack of transparency and honesty about this list. How could you leave Ryan? How could you say Jared Goff and the Lions when you're saying, okay, who needs a starter? The Lions need a starter, which I don't totally agree with, but I understand. Jared Goff, I think, gets a bad rap.
Well, the Lions were 3-13-1. And
okay.
Who does the blame fall on? The coach and the quarterback.
I guess, but Matthew Stafford, they want to put him in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't get blamed anymore for the fact
he won a
didn't win
Super
games in
Bowl.
Detroit. But when he was in Detroit, he didn't win any games, and everybody forgives him for that. Remember, every time the Hall of Fame discussion comes up, it's like he's 20 games. He's 20 games. He's 20 games under 500. Yeah, well, that was Detroit. So we don't say that with Jared Goff. But I digress. He has them as the Lions need a starter. And I'm looking again at the stats. Completion percentage. And remember, Goff played 3 less games than Tannehill last year. Completion percentage. Jared Goff, 67.2. Ryan Tannehill, 67.2. Touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill, 21. Jared Goff, 19. And again, Goff played 3 less games. Interceptions. Ryan Tannehill, 14. Jared Goff, 8. So, I mean, we sit here, Mike Tannenbaum, we sit here and say that team needs a starter. They had a quarterback that did almost the exact same. That team needs a starter as the team in Tannehill that they don't even need to be thinking about an upgrade. They got Ryan Tannehill. They're ready to go. They're rocking and rolling. And it's like, my God, everybody has forgotten about the horrendous season Ryan Tannehill had. And everybody has forgotten about how horrible Ryan Tannehill was in the playoffs. That we're now, we're leaving him out of a list that includes Jalen Hurts. I mean, again, I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts guy.
But I wouldn't necessarily categorize Philadelphia as in need for a quarterback.
No. And I wouldn't categorize
they drafted
the Titans.
Their quarterback.
I wouldn't count the Titans as in need for a quarterback. Could the Titans upgrade? Absolutely. Could the Eagles upgrade with Jalen Hurts? Sure. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be in the NFL for 11 years, and he's going to have some good years with the Eagles, and then he's going to be a backup, and he'll be a decent player, and he'll have a nice career, and he'll make some money, and that'll be the Jalen Hurts story. Now, I could be wrong. Jalen Hurts has shown some signs that he's okay, but I mean, goodness gracious. This idea for Tannehill that that he's like as much of an entrenched starter in the league as, you know, Kyler Murray in Arizona is just ridiculous to me. By the way, don't even get me started on Kyler Murray. I can't stand that guy anymore. I can't stand that stoogery of an organization. I was thinking about this today. And this goes back to my whole theory on the Titans. Like in any other market that's a big NFL market, any other market that Tannehill's worthiness or replacements for Tannehill or anything would be discussed on a daily basis. But because nobody watches the Titans, and more importantly, those people don't care about the Titans, it's like, oh, you guys, Tennessee wants to upgrade a quarterback. They win some games with Tannehill, the end. It's like, okay, the Cowboys win games with Mike McCarthy. Yeah, but Mike McCarthy. But I've realized that there's like 8 franchises in the NFL that just nobody cares about outside of their own city. Arizona, just like the Titans, is a franchise that nobody cares about. And I look at the stoogery that is going on in Arizona. Did you see that they just extended the GM and the coach there?
I did.
Why?
I did.
Why did they extend the coach?
Well, they justified
what has
it.
that freaking coach done?
They justified it by laying out the 3 years that Cliff Kingsbury has coached in Arizona, and in each year, they've won more games. So
okay,
That's their justification, is we're winning more games than we were winning before Cliff Kingsbury got here.
Okay. Now, that's incredibly irresponsible to say.
Why?
But I understand, right? Like, okay, fine, whatever. You say it, that's what they said. But because nobody cares about Arizona, now Kyler's a little different because he was a Heisman Trophy winner. And, like, honestly, if Kyler had just not said a word, nobody would talk about him this offseason or talk about his contract. But because Kyler has put himself in the news, that's a discussion people are having. But I say this because nobody cares. If the Dallas Cowboys gave a 3-year extension to Mike McCarthy today, or the New York Giants gave a 3-year extension at the end of last year to Joe Judge, people would be losing their mind on television. But because nobody cares about Arizona, they don't even really discuss it. It's like, okay, yeah, coach got an extension. Moving on now.
It's interesting because although I do agree with you in that people don't really care about the Arizona Cardinals as a franchise.
Or the Miami Dolphins.
Love Kyler Murray. I mean, when Kyler wiped his Instagram clean of anything Arizona Cardinals related, it was like, Sports Center, Kyler. Get up, Kyler. Good morning,
But
football,
he put himself in the news
Kyler.
doing that. So, and I'll use an example. When Ryan Tannehill was in Miami, there was a corner by the name of Grimes. And his wife put out on Twitter after a game that Tannehill sucked. And that was like a major story.
Well, I mean, that is a major story.
Wife of a player said that Tannehill sucked. So it got talked about on all the channels, but nobody cares about Tannehill. Nobody cares about the Miami Dolphins. Just like nobody cares about the Titans. Nobody cares about the Arizona Cardinals. Nobody cares about the Houston Texans. Nobody cares about, like, there's like 9 teams in the NFL.
The Jags.
That I feel, oh, yeah, nobody cares. Now, Urban Meyer kicking a player, that's a big deal because it's a coach. And not only is it a coach, but it's a famous coach. So, like, if you're a team that nobody cares about and you get a great player, then it's different. Tom Brady to Tampa Bay. Nobody cared about Tampa Bay, but they got Tom Brady. Now they care. If Bill Belichick left the Patriots and came to the Titans, then people would care. So that's kind of the one thing that I would say, okay, that makes a little bit of sense, but it's still, I mean, goodness gracious. I just, how Tannehill's not on that list, I just don't. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Add that to the kitty if you want to get in on it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number as we discuss the combine. Now, I've got this that I feel like are the big Titans decisions that have to be made this week. And they're coming. And it started yesterday, and I'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. FanDuel Sportsbook is my official sportsbook app, and I absolutely love the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We've got Covington versus Masvidal. The rivalry will be renewed this Saturday night. FanDuel Sportsbook is making things even more exciting by offering new customers 30-1 odds on either fighter. That's right. You can win $150 on a $5 bet. Just sign up for FanDuel Sportsbook using promo code JGM, pick your fighter, and get ready to win big. I'm going to go with Covington in this fight. You got to bet FanDuel Sportsbook because betting is quick and easy to get started, and you get your winnings super fast. And there are tons of different sports and bet types to wager on. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook app for a reason. Take my word for it. It's also my official sportsbook app. So don't miss your chance to cash in on one of the biggest fights of the year using the promo code JGM. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. New users only. $10 first deposit required. Must wager in a designated offer market. Max bonus $150. Bonus for Tennessee users fulfilled in site credit within 72 hours. Tennessee site credit expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line. 1-800-889-9789.
Take us wherever you may go.
There is going to be a whole lot of work going on.
Shoot us in anywhere, anytime.
I think he has some big play in him.
Just search The Game Nashville in your app store and download today. And keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
To understand what makes Genesis Diamonds so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back over 40 years to the diamond cutting capital of Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where Genesis owner Boaz Ramon grew up, in the center of the diamond universe. His connections with the best diamond cutters allowed him special access, giving rise to a thriving wholesale business here in the United States. Then, after a few years, this wholesaler changed the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices he had sold to the jewelry stores. The no middleman concept became an instant success. Today, Genesis Diamonds provides that extraordinary value to people right here in Middle Tennessee, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best price of any jewelry store in America. Genesis Diamonds, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs.
If you missed the latest edition of Preds Insiders,
I thought last week was an awesome week for Nashville Predators hockey. I thought it was an awesome week for hockey in this town. And sure, you would have liked them to go 3 for 3 and get all 6 of those points and really put an exclamation point on the week. But even without that, you win 2 out of the 3 games. You get 4 out of the 6 possible points. You win the Western Conference matchup against Dallas, which is more important than the loss to an Eastern Conference team in Tampa Bay anyway. I think a lot went really well for the Predators last week. And it was one of those things, too, where you look around and say, I think we learned some things about the hockey team. I mean, it was not an easy week last week for the Predators. It was a fun week. It was a memorable week. It was all those things, but by no means was it easy. You start off last Tuesday going on the road against Florida. The Preds are down 3 separate times in that game. They come back to tie it, and then you win the game in regulation.
Search Preds Insiders today on your favorite podcast platform. The newest edition releases every Monday at 6 on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Signs First is the official sign company for 102.5 The Game. Go to sfnash.com.
Hey, it's Elijah Campbell from Darren, Donick, and Chase, and I got my radio start right here as an intern at ESPN 102.5 The Game. It was an excellent experience, and we're now looking for new interns. If you think that's you, go ahead and send your resume over to together@cromwellmedia.com to apply.
From the Hillside Medical Game Studios, WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne, broadcasting 97.5 Murfreesboro, 106.3 Williamson County,
ESPN
102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Live from the Game Nashville studios, it's Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving. TriStar Movers with 5-star service. With Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, ESPN 102.5 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to the law offices of Amanda Gentry. I'm on remote today. Caroline Fenton is in our Hillside Medical Game Studios. Fireball Hot Take Friday. We are rocking and rolling. The Combine is moving along. And right now, they have a bunch of helmets dancing on the turf in Indianapolis. I don't know what this is for. Free agents. Oh, it's a commercial. Free agency frenzy begins March 3rd. It's a bunch of helmets just dancing up and down. Anywho,
peak marketing right there.
So here's what's crazy about the NFL. The NFL has it timed out so well. Mad Dog Russo can complain about how he doesn't care about the Combine. But the truth is a lot of people do. And so the NFL has it mapped out where you literally go from season to playoffs to Super Bowl. Then you have a week off where people watch other sports, to Combine, to franchise tag deadline, to free agency, to pro days, to the draft, to OTAs, to June 1st cuts. Then they take off of all of July, then training camp. And it is a vicious cycle where how constant for a sport that only plays 4 months in the regular season out of the year, how crazy it is. But the Tennessee Titans are at a point right now where they got to have some decisions made. Now, they did not say anything definitively on the record at the Combine on Wednesday, but it's pretty obvious that some of these decisions are going to have to be made. So to me, there are 4 big decisions that the Titans are going to have to make by the weekend, we start with what I believe is the most important decision at number one.
Number one.
Do you go quarterback in the first round of the draft? Now, again, there is 2 layers to this decision. The first layer is if you fall in love with 1 or 2 of the 5 quarterbacks, who are they and where do you think they're going to go? For example, I don't think the Titans would be as interested in Sam Howell out of North Carolina as other people do. He doesn't throw the ball downfield, though he moves a little bit, but he struggles with deep ball accuracy, things of that magnitude. And I just don't see him being the Vrabel Robinson guy like TD says Desmond Ridder is. I don't see the Titans being in love with Kenny Pickett, small hands. And he's going to go way far up into the draft. So if they love 2 of these guys, let's say Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder, they have to then decide, okay, are we going to use our first round pick this year on a guy who most likely will not be a big part of the puzzle until 2023? The Titans returned so many players from last year's team, and a group that didn't just make the playoffs once in a blue moon like Cincinnati did this past year, but a team that has been to the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years, that there's a pretty good idea and a pretty good sense that they're a good team. So if you do decide, okay, I love one of these quarterbacks, then you're not going wide receiver, you're not going tight end, you're not going offensive line in the first round of the draft. So they got to decide, do you love Desmond Ridder? Do you love Malik Willis? And if the answer is yes, then you have to be prepared what a draft and free agency would look like if you end up using your first round pick on somebody who ends up not contributing in 2022. That takes us to the second big decision they have to make.
Number 2.
Do you franchise tag Harold Landry? That decision is an $18 million decision that has to be made by Tuesday. Now, I would say this, based off of what I've heard, there is going to be a robust free agent market for Harold Landry. That there are teams that are lining up and awaiting this deadline of the franchise tag to see what the Titans are going to do. And they would be very excited, from what I've been told, if Harold Landry were to become a free agent. There's also $18 million against the cap, which is a humongous amount of money to take on for a guy who has double-digit sacks once. But I have also heard that there is a chance that progress has been made between the Titans and Landry on a deal, and maybe they end up working one out. But I do know this. I do know that there are teams that are lining up for Harold Landry if he hits the market. So do you take on the $18 million cap hit if you can't work out a deal? That is a big decision, and it's got to be made by Tuesday.
Number 3.
How do you fix wide receiver and tight end? And I'm also going to put with that offensive line, because the reality is you can't spend big dollars or high draft picks on all 3. You can go get a big receiver. If you want to pay for Chris Godwin or you want to pay for Allen Robinson, you have the money to do so. I was playing around with the contracts and the calculator tool on overthecap.com, and it was like 5 clicks, and I had $30 million in cap space. Now, the reality is that if you tag Harold Landry, that's going to take away half of that. But again, that's enough for you to be able to sign Chris Godwin to play wide receiver. But if you do that, then you have to go cheap at tight end, or you have to draft tight end, and then you have to go cheap on the offensive line. And you've got Ben Jones, who's ranked ahead of a bunch of really good players on the NFL Network's list of top 100 free agents. You're going to have to replace him. You're going to have to release Roger Saffold, who made the Pro Bowl. You're going to have to replace him. Taylor Lewan, who knows? He's not all that consistent. Maybe you have to think about replacing him. There's a lot that you've got to decide, okay, where can I go cheap? Last year, they decided they were going to go cheap at right tackle and go cheap at tight end. And they really paid. Receiver too. Remember the Joe Rexrode article, which was We're okay with letting go of Corey Davis, according to a source, because we've got Nick Westbrook-Akina. Well, no disrespect to Nick Westbrook-Akina. I know Joe loves him, but I don't think the Titans can bank their hopes on Nick Westbrook-Akina. So you're going to have to go cheap somewhere. Where do you want to go cheap? They tried to go cheap at offensive line. They tried to go cheap, right tackle. They tried to go cheap at tight end. They were going to go cheap at wide receiver before Julio. Where do you go cheap? And the draft will help you decide that, because if there's as many tight ends as TD says and everybody else says, then they can go take one and put that guy right there.
Number 4.
Now, this is a big decision in large part to me, because Floyd, one of the first conversations I ever had with him, he told me how important he thought this position was. David Quessenberry is a restricted free agent, which means the Titans can tender him a contract and pretty much guarantee that he comes back to play right tackle. But is David Quessenberry worth that? Now, as far as drafting is concerned with the Titans, they have not done a very good job of drafting tackles high in the draft over the last 2 years. Quessenberry has essentially been a godsend. He was on the practice squad, then he's a backup, then he's your starting left tackle after Taylor Lewan and Ty Sambrailo got hurt in 2019, and he played okay. Then he comes in as a backup. Last year, the Titans wanted to go into training camp with Kendall Lamb and Dylan Radens to battle for right tackle. Both of those guys sucked. So then they tried out Sambrailo back in there, and he didn't perform well enough. So then they put Quessenberry at right tackle, and they ended up getting through the entire season with a backup at right tackle. They went cheap. I like David Quessenberry, but unlike Dennis Kelly, I'm not really sure that you can go into a season with David Quessenberry as your starting right tackle. Why does this decision have to get made? Because if you're going to tag Harold Landry for $18 million, you better find a way somehow to put a right tackle out there. So again, those are the 4 decisions I think that they have to figure out now. Are they thinking quarterback? And if they do, free agency, you got to go get receivers. You got to go get tight ends. You got to figure out your offensive line, because you're not going to be able to draft a guy that's going to come in right away and play, because you're using your first round pick on a quarterback and you don't have a second round pick. Do you tag Harold Landry? How do you fix wide receiver and tight end? Do you go cheap or do you go with real money? And is David Quessenberry good enough to be the right tackle next year? Now, here's my question for everybody. What do you think those decisions are going to be? What do you think those decisions should be? 615-737-1025. We'll give ours next. 615-737-1025. And again, the question is, 4 big decisions. How are they going to get made for the Titans? Plus, Mike Vrabel, we'll get into this as well. Mike Vrabel talked about, he's on the competition committee now. They talked about the overtime rule. I'm surprised this hasn't gotten more picked up, but we'll discuss it coming up next. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Those are my guys. They take great care of my home, and I promise you that they can do the exact same for you. Hiller is giving away free vacations for you and your family this month. With every purchase of a new whole home generator or select new HVAC systems, Hiller is giving you a free week-long vacation. With every purchase of a new tankless water heater, Hiller is giving you a free weekend vacation, and they're giving you a Visa Rewards card to pay for your gas to get you there. Choose from over 400 Marriott, Wyndham, Hilton, or Hyatt hotel properties. Take advantage of this unbelievable deal while you can, because these deals are only available for a limited time. So make sure you schedule today. Visit happyhiller.com for all the details. As always, Happy You'll Be Here. The service is free. And again, Hiller's been taking care of my home. They can do the same for you, and they do a fantastic job. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Here they come, turn 4, final lap.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe. Join me for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8, and you can hear some of the big names in racing, like Denny Hamlin.
I always like to undersell and overdeliver.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
It would be amazing to watch a Cup race compete there again.
Kevin Harvick.
I think we learned a lot.
And several others. It's Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Need cash for that home improvement or want to finally be credit card debt free? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto can do it for you, whether you have a VA loan or a conventional loan. They're helping local homeowners convert their home equity into cash with zero closing costs. Willie Donick here. Listen, your home value is up. Let Loan Pronto tap that equity and get you the cash you need. Pay off high-interest loans. Start that home remodeling project. Veteran homeowners are really loving this because with a VA loan, you can tap 100% of your home's equity. That's a ton of cash. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They are doing loans with APRs in the twos. And if you call now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call now to see what your options are. Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Subject to lender approval. Not all loans apply.
Hey Nashville, it's Jared, and there's a new go-to for home furnishing. Social Furniture on the West Side is independently home-owned furniture store in Nashville. Forget the big box stores. Shop local, shop social. They have all the best brand mattresses, sofas, recliners, love seats, sectionals, coffee tables, and more with no waiting. They will deliver it the same day. That's with everything at Social Furniture. Enjoy new furniture now with no waiting. Shop local, shop social. 5412 Charlotte Avenue near White Bridge Road, and tell them Jared Stillman sent you.
If you snore, it may be a sign of a more serious, possibly life-threatening condition. Most people think of snoring as a nuisance, but it's a much more serious medical condition than you think. Snoring has been associated with chest pain, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, chronic pain, obesity, headaches, and sore throat. Take a listen to what some of our patients are saying about the revolutionary Vivo system.
Right after I started using it, I noticed the results really, especially with the snoring. My sleep apnea episodes are a fraction of what they were before. This product's phenomenal. It changed my life.
I am 100% happy that I did this, and I'm thankful every day that I have it.
If you're curious about our sleep devices, call now for a sleep consultation. Don't let your spouse have to sleep in the guest room, and don't risk the severe health complications of snoring and sleep apnea.
Dr. Kelly Rice is certified to provide the Vivo system to open the airway for a better night's sleep. Call 615-373-4488 or go to BrentwoodSleepApnea.com to see which therapy can work best for you.
Individual results may vary. Always seek the advice of your health provider with any questions regarding a medical condition.
If you've missed any of today's show, just search Stillman and Company on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
With your salary cap situation being tighter, and I don't know what the exact number is, but obviously you don't have $50 million in cap room like some teams do. Are we going to see the priority just be on the current Titans more so than going out and going crazy on March the 16th when free agency opens?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'd say that's probably a fair assessment, though, Mike, is to try to, think about, this year's free agents, but also some guys that we've got coming up in future years. You're going to try to keep, those guys around too, and those are some of the decisions that we're working through now and the decisions that we'll have to make as we inch closer to the start of free agency.
There you go. That was John Robinson talking to Mike Keith on the Titans website about, hey, we got to think about some of our own guys, and we got to, I don't know about all that one. But, Caroline, 4 major decisions that I feel like the Titans have got to make. Number 1, do you go quarterback in the first round knowing that you're making a play for 2023 and beyond, and as opposed to wide receiver, offensive line, defense in the first round, which would be a move that would be about 2022 and beyond? What do you think the Titans' decision on that should be?
I say the Titans draft a quarterback only if it's the guy that they feel confident about in the future. If they have any doubts, if they don't think that he's necessarily the perfect 100% right fit, then you got to go wide receiver, you got to go offensive line, whatever other position of need. But I say go quarterback if you believe that that is your guy.
Okay, so if that's your guy, are you going to do anything it takes to get to your guy? Let's say you're worried Ritter's going to go ahead before 26. Do you move up to jump somebody? Do you move down if you think he's the 5th best quarterback, but he's your guy? But again, it won't help you in 2022 if you make that decision.
And that's also a concern of mine, but also we talk about the window so much. A lot of fans say, okay, drafting a quarterback isn't going to help us immediately, and we have a window. But if the Titans believe that this guy is the future of the franchise, is their future quarterback, then you have a window. The window extends. It depends on how much it would take to get there. If Malik Willis and all of these other quarterbacks are going in the top 10 and the Titans feel like they have to jump up into the top 10 to get them, that makes me a little bit nervous, because if you're going to invest, I know, but I'm just saying hypothetically.
Ian, do you think that you would draft quarterback over these wide receivers, offensive linemen, or defense, knowing that it won't help you for this upcoming season?
Man, that is tough, isn't it? I mean, for the long-term success of the franchise, you would say if he's highly rated, as the quarterback, you just take him and you deal with the rest of it later, and because it's the most important position. But I'm skeptical they will take a quarterback, but I think you have to consider it. It would be a disservice if you don't.
Yeah.
Should they franchise tag Harold Landry? Caroline?
This is another one that I struggle with because in my head I say, okay, franchise tagging, that's an $18 million cap hit for one guy, and you have a very small sample size of the level of production that Harold Landry had in 2021. I mean, in 2020, he wasn't even near close to the numbers that he had in 2021. I feel nervous about investing that much money into him, and I also feel nervous about investing that much time into him. But I also tell myself, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The defensive line was a force to be reckoned with, and the Titans spent so much money in free agency last year in order to build up that defensive line.
But you wouldn't pay to Nico Autry $18 million.
But if I were to decide right now, no, I don't franchise tag Harold Landry because I think that with the other three guys around him, you can plug in a guy for cheaper that could have close to the level of production that Harold Landry had. So, no, I do not franchise tag Harold Landry.
Ian, $18 million, do you tag a Harold Landry?
I think I would be more willing to tag Landry than I would a long-term deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think just because...
Make him do it again.
Between that, I mean, he's proven that he can handle a large workload because we've talked multiple years about whether or not they're going to bring his snaps down, and they really haven't. So you got to give him credit for that. He's reliable. He plays every week. He seems to practice, although this year he was a little bit more limited than usual. He plays every game. He has a high workload. He plays hard. He's a good He's good at the pass rush, and he's good at setting the edge against the run. I think he fits this defensive line very well, and if you can continue to keep this group with Autry and Simmons and Dupree and Landry for another year, I think that gives you a good base moving forward for the defense. I don't know if he's going to be a super high sack number guy for the rest of his entire career, for another second contract, which is going to be multiple years. I'm not sure you can rely on him to be a double-digit sack guy every year. So I would be more willing to franchise him than I would a longer-term deal.
One thing I will say, too, to that point is that you can always tag and trade. And on top of it, with Landry, if you tag Landry, the one thing that you're almost guaranteeing is that you have to cut Zach Cunningham, which they may cut Zach Cunningham anyways. But I don't care about middle linebacker. Like, middle linebacker is not, David Long Jr. will be the number one middle linebacker, and you can go plug Monty Rice in or go sign some guy, because there's going to be a lot out there because you're already putting two of them out into the market. So go sign some linebacker to come in here. But if you do that, you're getting rid of Zach Cunningham, and I don't have a problem with that. Okay, 3. Do you go cheap at wide receiver or tight end? Caroline.
I don't think you can go.
Excuse me. The question is, how do you fix wide receiver and tight end on the cheap or with real money?
And what do you classify real money? Because I don't want to.
I would classify real money as your first or third pick.
Okay.
And not 1 year, $3 million, but 4 years, $52 million, and then, however the cap works out, whatever bullcrap way it ends up, Plinko chipping its way down.
I mean, I would not delve out a first-round pick for a wide receiver.
Now remember, for example, they spent real money on the defensive line last year. They went cheap at wide receiver and
That's a very fair point. Would you say they went on the cheap with Julio Jones?
That was after the fact. So, up until the draft, they had all of their all of their assets. Going into this, Julio could have gone to any team, and the Titans would have had to roll out what they had. And so, I don't think their master plan was to wait until June 1st and then trade for Julio Jones. It just happened to work out that way. But I think that their plan was sign Josh Reynolds, have all these backup tight ends and Dez Fitzpatrick, and TikTok, let's let it rock. And obviously that was a bad plan. But they definitely went cheap at wide receiver and tight end until the Julio trade, which was just stupid. But for the most part, they went cheap. They spent real money last year. And they let real money, Davis signed for real money, Jonnu signed for real money. They let real money walk out the door. So do you go on the cheap again, or do you sign real money knowing that it's going to affect you somewhere else in the ball club?
I say go real money because I'm already willing to not franchise tag Harold Landry, and that's freeing up $18 million right now. So I'm willing to go with real money for tight end and wide receiver because I think we saw this past year how much it really does hurt the offense whenever they don't have a viable option at wide receiver or tight end. And I'm not saying dish out $8 million a year for Gronk. I'm not saying that you got to hit a home run in both of those positions.
I don't have a problem. $8 million, I have no problem with $8 million.
I don't think that they need to do that.
I mean, $8 million is not a lot of money against guys. $18 million.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so I say real money for a tight end and a wide receiver.
Ian, do you go on the cheap or do you go real money?
I don't know. That's, looking back at the Julio thing, it did feel like we kept speculating that Julio would fit with the Titans because they hadn't made any moves or done anything at wide receiver and they didn't have anything. So this whole time people are like, oh, the Titans could make a move for Julio. Who else do they have as wide receiver other than Chester Rogers and A.J. Brown? And they let Corey Davis go, and they don't have any other moves. So deep down, it almost felt like there was some type of, situation where at the end of the day they were going to find a way to work something out to bring in a wide receiver. But as far as this year, what they should do as far as tight end, I think they're going to have to do something. I'm skeptical about giving out a lot of money for tight end in free agency, but I also don't think you can rely on a rookie tight end to come in and make a difference quickly. The rookie tight ends, I think, take some time. I think you're better off getting a higher impact rookie as a wide receiver and trying to find a role for him.
Especially in this class.
Yeah, whether it's like how Elijah Moore kind of picked up for the Jets in the second half of the season. You can find a couple of, A.J. Brown kind of flashed a little bit. I think it's easier to find somebody like that than it would, I don't want to pay the next Jonnu Smith, though, this year for the Titans and have him have so little impact. I would go cheaper at tight end and spend a higher pick on wide receiver.
So I think it's easier to go cheaper at tight end because there's a lot of guys out there that aren't going to sign for big money. So, for example, and I think Gronk's probably going to retire. Zach Ertz will probably get some money. CJ Uzama will probably get some money. Evan Ingram will probably get some money. David Njoku will probably get some money. And Mike Gesicki will probably get money.
And Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz might get a little bit of money.
He might get a little, I don't.
Is Evan Ingram not a free agent?
What's that?
Evan Ingram?
I think I mentioned his name. But O.J. Howard is probably not getting real money. For example.
I'd be good with O.J.
Jared
Howard.
Cook is probably not getting a lot of money.
Also
Gerald
good with
Everett, Kyle Rudolph, those guys are probably not getting a lot of money. So I think you could probably go cheap at tight end. But it's also, again, paying Uzama, who might be one of the top tight ends, is a lot cheaper than paying, say, Chris Godwin, who's one of the top wide receivers. So I think that's tough. And then the fourth question, is David Quessenberry a starting right tackle? Caroline.
No. I mean, he's serviceable, but I think that the Titans need more depth at offensive line, right tackle included. And I think the fact that we even have to ask the question proves that he's not.
Ian, is David Quessenberry good enough to start at right tackle next year?
I mean, it's going to be expensive to upgrade right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be very expensive. Just because we've seen over the couple of years, teams are not paying just for left tackles now. They're paying for right tackles just because of the pass rushers. So I do think Quessenberry, he plays every game. He's more reliable. He's solid. He's a good run blocker. He's a great team-first attitude guy. I think I would consider bringing him back as right tackle.
kind of side with Carolina on this one. I think he's like the next Dennis Kelly. Where you swing him left, right. He can do that as your backup. He can start for you. He can play in a pinch. But I'm not sure I like going into week 1 next year with him as the right tackle on the Titans. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Mike Vrabel with some interesting words about his role on the competition committee and the overtime rule. And I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this, but the Colts are trying to introduce this new rule in here that may change overtime. We'll get our thoughts on that. We'll hit some headlines to Caroline. We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, ESPN 1025 The Game.
Saturday night.
He scores! Roman Yossi scores in overtime!
Roman Yossi and the Predators continue their road trip in San Jose against the Sharks. Pre-game at 6, face-off at 7 on Smashville's Best Sports Talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Gary Ashton here. I love hearing people say, don't sell without the intel, because it means they're really embracing our message. Now's a great time to sell your home in Nashville, but you need the intel only the Gary Ashton team can provide. Intel that helps you sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel to win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Let everyone else get the same information and compete for the same properties, while you get the intel edge with the Gary Ashton team, the official real estate team for your Tennessee Titans. And if you're looking for a great career, join our team. We added 65 new agents last year, and we want you to join us this year. Remember, don't sell without the intel. And if you're looking for a great career, the Gary Ashton team wants you in 2022. Call 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com today.
Winning this award is truly like winning the Super Bowl of car dealer awards for Mercedes-Benz.
Edwin Vickery, General Manager of Mercedes-Benz of Music City.
Culture eats strategy for lunch. You have to hit on all cylinders to win this award. You can strategize all you want. You got to still have the right tools, and our tools are our people.
Live the dream with 3-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best Award winner, Mercedes-Benz of Music City. Go to mbofmc.com.
The Electronic Express tax refund sale is going on now. Get huge savings in every department, including 4K TVs, mattresses, computers and tablets, housewares, smart home, and more. We have all of your appliance needs in stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
This is Stan Harrison, CEO of Apple Collision Centers. We understand that no one likes to deal with auto body repair and the inconvenience it becomes in your day-to-day life. I want to personally invite you to stop by and let our experienced staff see how we can help you make your vehicle look good as new. Apple Collision Center has 3 convenient locations, Old Hickory, Hendersonville, and Gallatin, ready to serve you. Come by and see us or visit us online at applecollisioncenters.com.
Darren McFarland.
A lot of dots to connect there, a lot of storylines.
Willie Donick.
Be careful what you wish for.
And Chase McCabe.
Yes, because it's my favorite.
Get through your workday with Darren, Donick, and Chase. Weekdays 10 to 2.
Great 3-man band live. Fired up. Let's go.
On Nashville's Best Sports Talk.
ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I think they would love to see that.
Watch live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope.
When you see that, click on it.
Saturday, it's a battle in the Big 12. As Texas takes on Kansas.
Got a piece of the 3, but McCormick is there to clean it up.
Coverage begins at 2:30
on ESPN
1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's Best Sports Talk, ESPN 1025 The Game.
What's your preference for overtime in this big competition committee discussion? Your first time on competition?
Yeah, my preference right now is that I don't have one, other than I'm trying to gain a lot of information. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to understand everybody's position and ultimately make my vote, or whatever vote that is, with the best interest of the National Football League. Not just a handful of teams, not just a handful of people, but something that's going to apply to the league, that our fans, it's going to make the game better in some manner. So that is my stance right now. I'm going to have obviously one after looking at the numerous proposals that are out there, and then continue to have discussions, look at the data, and look at the reasons why, the team that won the coin toss in the postseason for the past 11 years, is 10-2. And, some of those examples, they scored on the first possession. Some of those weren't. Some of the ones that they scored on the first possession, there was a 80-yard Tim Tebow touchdown. There was a 75-yard Larry Fitzgerald reception. There was two 35-yard passes from the Seahawks. So I like to know the reasons why or what happened, and so some of them there was both teams possessed the ball, and the team that got the coin flip won it on the, their third possession, or what would have been the third possession of overtime. So there's a lot of things that go into it, not just, and when you're watching the game that Twitter is going to have a field day with, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots played a game similar to the one the Chiefs and the Bills did, where there was the last 6 possessions of the game all ended in scores. So, but the way that the trend was going in the game, whoever got the ball first was most likely going to go score a touchdown. It's just where it was.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel on Outkick 360. He is on the competition committee, so his opinion actually matters. I don't know if you saw this. The Colts wanted to introduce a new rule that guarantees 2 possessions in overtime for both teams in both the regular season, 1 possession for both teams in overtime for both the regular season and in the playoffs. Vrabel said that he wants one rule that is for both the regular season and the playoffs. He's on the competition committee. We didn't get much into this because we were too busy bitching about Tannehill throwing 3 interceptions against the Bengals when the rest of the country was talking about the overtime rules with the Bills and the Chiefs. This happened a couple years ago. Vrabel referenced the game, the Chiefs and the Patriots. I'm with Mike Vrabel. I'm undecided on the overtime rule. You want to give 2 possessions? Fine. I don't care. Whatever. You want to keep it at 1? I do believe that you should have to play defense. I think that we have this society where I call it it's not fair. But when a team wins in overtime because they win the coin toss and score a touchdown, everybody's like, it's not fair. And I'm like, that's why you have a defense. Buffalo had the number 1 defense in the NFL. They couldn't protect for 13 seconds. Then they couldn't protect and at least hold Kansas City to a field goal to give Buffalo and Josh Allen a shot. So is it not fair, or did you just suck at defense on that drive and in that game? So I'm torn. I'm with Vrabel. I would agree that, if the coin toss is really 10 out of 12, seems like a lot is left up to the coin toss there. So I'm open to either, but I'm not committed one way or another. How do you feel?
Oh, no, I'm fully committed to giving both teams the ball in overtime.
Oh, God, why?
I mean, did you not just say that you were split and now all of a sudden I say I'm fully on one side and now you're anti my side?
Well, I that was my reaction, was because I know the why.
Why?
When I said, oh, guy, why? Because it's not fair.
I mean,
That's why.
No, because I think it's dumb that the ending of a game is ultimately decided by a coin toss. And I understood. You gotta play defense.
You
now,
do
give
have
me a
to play
break.
defense.
Yeah, you do have to play defense. You also have to play offense, and you don't get that opportunity if the other team scores. So yeah, gotta play defense. Yeah, football guys, play defense. Give both teams the opportunity to score. I think that makes overtime so much more appealing. Because I watched the overtime of the Kansas City Buffalo game, and I thought, oh, all right, game's decided, game's over. I think it's dumb, especially in the playoffs. I think it's dumb to let a game ultimately be decided by a coin toss.
Was it decided by the coin toss, or was it decided by the fact that Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde turned into pumpkins after being the best safety tandem in the NFL the whole season?
Well, let the offense go out there then. If you're going to play defense, also let them play offense.
Well, you have to play defense.
Yeah.
In the current rules. And I'm fine with making you play defense.
Okay, then it sounds like you have your mind made up.
I do not have my mind made up.
I think that both teams should have the opportunity to have the ball.
It does sound like my mind's made up.
Yeah,
but
it does. It sounds like it's made up just because you want to be the antithesis of what I say.
No, I just, there's a part of me that Again,
it's dumb. It's decided by a coin toss.
Freaking defense. If you play defense, it's easy because then all you have to do is kick a field goal.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Okay.
Like what the Bengals did to the Titans. They got the interception, and then they kicked the field goal, and they won. There you go.
I mean,
the Bengals lost the coin toss.
But why did
they played defense?
But the Bengals
They
got the
played
ball.
defense.
The Bengals
They
got the ball back.
intercepted
That's how you
Mahomes.
play normal games. That's
They
how you play
intercepted
normal
Mahomes.
games. You score, and then the
And
other
they kick the
team
field
gets
goal.
the ball. That's how you play football. So
Not-
why is
not-
overtime
no, no,
any
no.
different?
No. The Bengals and the Chiefs in the game.
Okay.
Overtime. Chiefs won the coin toss. Bengals intercepted the ball, kicked the field goal, went to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Because they played defense.
Okay.
So play some defense. Again,
They
I
play
am not
offense
against-
too.
I am not against the idea.
Let the other team have the opportunity to play defense as well.
I am not against the idea that we might need to change the rule. But what I don't like the idea of is Kansas City losing the AFC Championship game because they lost the coin toss and Brady went down the field and scored a touchdown and the Patriots won. And then all of a sudden, after that, Kansas City submits a proposal to the league that both teams get the ball, and it's all like, it's not fair. And I'm like, play defense. That's all I'm asking. Just play a little defense. Then again, I like defense.
But it's
Most people don't.
I think it's silly.
I like running the ball.
I think it is
don't.
so silly.
Now, here's what I think silly. And this is why I don't think they're going to do this. The NFL cares a lot about how long a game goes. Like, they don't want a game to go 3.5 hours. They're not baseball, where it's like, the game was 4 hours, 18 minutes. Oh, well, we'll try to trim it down a little bit. Football's like, hey, you kick off at 12:04, and that freaking game better be over, by the time before the meat of the second game, because the second game's the big game of the week. And the NFL, they're very tight about making sure those games are over in a certain window. That's why they cut the window down from 15 minutes till a tie to 10 minutes until a tie. So they're definitely not going to guarantee 2 possessions because then you're going to have to extend the window. I mean, imagine if a team takes 8 minutes in a regular season game, kicks a field goal, the other team scores a touchdown, the other team gets the ball back, has to score a touchdown, and they've got 1:35 to go. Like, so I think that's going to screw the whole thing up. But, I mean, can we just play a little defense?
Well, but you're acting like they didn't just play defense for 4 quarters.
Well, it's overtime.
It's overtime.
Play
So
defense
give
in
both
basketball.
teams an opportunity to score.
I'm now starting to be against it.
It's the team that loses the coin toss is at like an astronomical disadvantage.
It's not fair. You sound like Clark Hunt, the owner of the Chiefs, after they lost that game to the Patriots. And again,
Well, it ultimately worked out for them in the end.
it did. It did. And then they lost, even though they won the coin toss the second time. By the way, what was funny was I was listening to the radio for that AFC Championship game, and it was like they have the mic of the referee just like TV, and it's like, heads, it is heads. Kansas City's won the toss, and the roar of the crowd when they won the coin toss was like so. You would
That's
think
so
that like
silly. Like
you would
if
think
these,
that Chris Sanders was like cheering the crowd on, like
Yeah.
with the importance of the coin.
I'm
toss.
sure Chris Sanders is very much so in the keep the coin toss sacred group. But like if you're cheering about a coin toss as much as you'd be cheering about a touchdown, that's silly. That exposes holes in the game. That's so dumb to leave the game up to a freaking coin toss.
It's not fair. Cincinnati found a way to make it work. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I'm just saying. Hal Gill will join us next. Predators got to get one tomorrow at San Jose. Hal will join us. Stillman and Company, Fireball Hot Take Friday. I love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. Goes down so smooth. It tastes so great. There's no better way to ignite the night. Big hockey game tomorrow night. Better pour out some Fireball Whiskey. Combine drafts coming. Fireball Whiskey. It goes down so smooth and it tastes so great. So if you're out with your friends, if you're celebrating, I'm on the road right now, and we'll certainly be seeing how much Fireball we can grab in here. Love Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey. It goes down so smooth. Ignite the night. Please do responsibly and be 21 years or older to enjoy. That's Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey.
from the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
The weekend looking pretty good. Temperatures will remain quite warm on Saturday with highs in the mid-70s under mostly cloudy skies. Scattered showers possible for Sunday. Highs remain in the mid-70s. For Fox 17, I'm Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Cheers to you, girl. I know you're excited about the new job.
Oh, thanks so much.
Hey, is that my engagement ring you're wearing?
Don't be silly. Oh, wow. They are identical. How did that happen?
Don't tell me. He went to jail.
Yeah, yours too, I guess.
Wow.
Don't make her settle for one of those cookie cutter rings from the big corporate chain jewelry stores. At Genesis Diamonds, you can get her a stunning one-of-a-kind designer ring, one that's as unique as she is. Genesis has over 4,000 handcrafted rings from world-class designers like Tacori, Viraggio, Henry Dossi, and others. These are designers that you'll never see in one of those mega corporate stores, but we have them starting at under $1,000. So ladies, don't settle for the ordinary, for a ring that will be yours and yours alone. Make sure he goes to
Genesis Diamonds.
Continuously voted best jewelry store and best place to buy an engagement ring. Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Golfers, tee it up at Edwin Watts Golf Shops March 3rd through the 6th and schedule your custom fitting on the new arrivals from Callaway. Featuring the new Rogue ST drivers with tungsten speed cartridge, jailbreak speed frame, and AI flash face engineered for max speed and forgiveness. 4 drivers to fit every golfer's needs. Think speed, go Rogue. Go to worldwidegolfshops.com and schedule your free custom fitting today. Edwin Watts Golf Shops, home of the 90-day satisfaction guarantee.
O'Reilly. Count on the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your vehicle and budget. Get maximum cooling system performance for 10 years or 300,000 miles with Peak Long Life Universal Premixed Antifreeze and Coolant. Now just $3.99 after mail-in rebate. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Sometimes their glass is half full.
That was unbelievable. It was the best NFL draft they've ever had.
Sometimes glass half empty.
What are we getting ourselves into here? Tough game.
And sometimes it's all about the numbers.
One win, and they've gone on this streak, and now they're at 500.
Hang out with Darren, Donick, and Chase from 10 to 2 during your workday. Presented by Curacion CBD on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
This is Stillman and Company. Delivered by TriStar Moving.
Stillman and Company, Preds tomorrow. They take on San Jose. My phone's all screwed up because I'm on the West Coast right now. So it says that the Preds are taking on the Sharks. I guess it would be the local time here. It says the Preds are taking on the Sharks at 5 p.m. tomorrow, which means they're really taking them on at 7 p.m., which is interesting that it would be a 5 p.m. game, but it is a Saturday. And I got to tell you, the Predators did not look very good the other night against Seattle. And Crispy was on the show yesterday, and boy, Crispy, he was all worked up about how they looked Thursday night or Wednesday night against Seattle. Hal Gill joins us now in the program, presented by Dunkin'. Try out their next-gen location at 500 Cool Springs Boulevard for Dunkin'. Harold, the Predators have dropped 2 in a row. We understand losing to Tampa Bay. That's not a good sign. But then the game to Seattle was really, really, really bad. We probably don't understand that as much. What did you make of the loss Wednesday night and the state of the team?
Well, you know what? I will give you have to give credit to Seattle. I thought they played as good a game as they've played all year from what I've seen. They were on top of they were working their forecheck. They're really good through the neutral zone. So, like, the first period was ugly. It was both teams just trying to battle it up and down the ice. And then the Preds got a lead. And I know you don't agree with me, but athletes are human, and they make mistakes, and they kind of get away from themselves. So I feel like the 2-goal lead was, misrepresented, and I think they kind of said, okay, we got this one. And then give Seattle credit. They battled right back and played hard and had some nice plays and went up 3-2. And I think the Preds did a good job of settling that down and got back in, got a big goal to tie it up. And then, it just got away from them in the third, and they gave up that shorthanded goal, which is always a killer, and then you have a loss. And so, I think there was a lot of the human element in that game that you can understand. But, I'm sure if I was on the team, it's one of those things I would be really upset with myself if you let that game go, because that's one you should win. But, and looking back on it, you understand why it happened. You can't let that happen from now on. You can't give up 2 points in Seattle against Seattle. That's just a tough team to lose to right now, especially after coming off. You're playing good teams in Florida and Tampa and in a battle with all those games. So, they got to look at themselves in the mirror and hopefully come back with a good, another 2 points that you need against San Jose.
I think one of the big reasons they need to beat San Jose, Hal, is because they need to avoid another long losing streak, which they had the 4-game losing streak coming out of the break. What's up with this team? They were on fire there at the end of the calendar year and the beginning of January, and they really just, I don't want to say uninspiring, but it just isn't what it was before when they were playing really well.
I think I go back to that human element, like beginning of the year, they weren't supposed to be good, right? They were supposed to battle through a year, hope to fight for a spot, and then they come out and they're really good. Top line is scoring. The beast line is going out there doing their job. Defensively, they were fantastic. And then Juice has been awesome all year long. And so you start to think you're good. And the second you start to think you're good, that's when you try to make plays that maybe you shouldn't. You start to think, hey, we can just roll over teams. And the NHL, it doesn't work that way. You got to work every night. And so that work ethic and that what you talked about is that mentality where they're going to go out and fight for each other, fight for wins. I think it's gotten a little bit, they've forgotten about that a little bit. I think the guys that have been scoring a ton like Duchesne and Forsberg, if those guys go out and try to make cute plays, then it ends up in turnovers. And, maybe you score on one of them, but you give up 3 chances the other way. And so, I think they just have to reel their game back in, refocus, and, play to that identity that they had. They're going to play tough every night.
Al, can I ask you, give you like a question? Like,
sure, you can ask me anything.
Like I'm a patient and you're Dr. Phil, and I'd like to ask you, I find this team, and look, I'm a season ticket holder and I renewed my tickets for next year today. I find this team very uninspiring, if that makes any sense. Like, I enjoy the games. I feel like they play hard. I think they're a good group of guys. I know the coach doesn't like me, but I like him fine. But I just don't, other than the goalie, I just don't find this to be a very inspiring team. I feel like that their peak is to maybe get into the playoffs and win a couple of games. I don't see them winning any rounds in the playoffs right now. I certainly don't think they're an elite team. There's nothing. I mean, Forsberg's playing all right, but everybody, they are worried about re-signing him, and I think they need some new players on the team, not just re-signing him, but I think they need some new players. Right now, the state of the Preds, they're going to make the playoffs. I'm rooting for them. I like them. I don't have anything, against them. I just feel very uninspired by it.
Well, I think it might have been three weeks ago. We were talking. You were singing a different tune. you
when they beat the
So,
Avalanche the week of the Titans-Bengals game, I said that they were for real, and they have really played some uninspiring hockey since then.
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a human element that they've kind of fallen back, but it's still the same team. It's just they're they've hit a funk, and I think there's you look at what this team has gone through. First of all, you have an All-Star break that came at the wrong time. Remember, they had that All-Star break before that. They were on fire, and they take that break, and then you go through. They had a couple tough games there. They weren't quite playing to their identity, and then you get into last week, which is an emotional week. You have Pecorine being retired. You have the outdoor game. Like, they're going through a little bit of a rout. So I think it's unfair to say that they're not an inspiring team because, 3 weeks ago or before the All-Star break, everyone in the city was absolutely inspired by them, like saying, "This is my team. This is," I still think that team. It's just they're going through a funk, and I will say there's nothing more fun than what we saw early in the season from this team. So it's there. It's just a matter of balancing. Can you play like that throughout a whole season? That's tough to do. You're going to have ups and downs, and I think they're just having some downs right now. So, you're not very patient with it, and I get that because you're a fan and you want them to be the same every night. But I understand what they're going through. I not to say that if I was going through it with them, I wouldn't want to change it. I'm sure these guys want to get back to where they were, but you understand. Or you should understand that it's not always roses, right? You got to work it. You got to work it out. Like they got to get back to where they were, and I think they're a good team if they get back to that.
Hal, tell us about Duncan again. Their new next gen location. Hal's presented by Duncan. Is at 500 Cool Springs Boulevard. Tell us about Duncan.
Well, you talked about that. March 11th is that grand reopening. It's going to be great. So stay tuned for some exciting news about that. The new spring features are pretty fantastic. Sorry, it's a little windy as I walk around outside. But yeah, the new spring items are pretty fantastic. So check them out. The salted caramel cream cold brew, shamrock macchiato with Irish cream swirl, roasted tomato toast. And you can get that with a hummus or an avocado spread. It's pretty fantastic. Enjoy that. Also, try the chocolate croissants. I'm a breakfast sandwich guy. So sausage, egg, and cheese is my go-to. You can't beat that. And, of course, they got the best coffee ever. So go out and get midnight is my roast. Try the midnight roast. It's fantastic. And, go treat yourself sometime and go get your dunks.
There you go. Hal Gill in San Jose. See you tomorrow on the call, Hal.
All right. Sounds good, Jared. Thank you.
Yep. So I got to say this,
Hal.
Caroline. I got to say this. And this is my thing, which is, like, when I said to Hal about the idea of I feel very uninspired by the Predators. And he was like, I get it. You're a fan and that's how you feel, but you got to understand they're going through things. All I could hear in my head was Eric Dickerson saying, this LA, this is not St. Louis. We don't want to almost win. We want to win. And I'm like, with the Predators, I feel like I've gotten to the point where, like, I remember what it was like when they were winning, and I'm tired of almost winning. I want them to win.
Well, I go back to your conversation with Crispy. What was that, yesterday?
And he wants them to win.
He wants them to win, but he says, playoffs isn't enough. I want them to win the first round and the second round and the third round, and I want them to make a run for the cup. And I hear that, and I agree with him because I would love that. But I also hear that and think, I just don't think this team can do that.
Yeah, I think uninspiring is the right word. Hopefully they'll go out there tomorrow and they'll win, and we'll all be very inspired, and we'll have a great, fantastic Fireball Hot Take weekend, and everybody will be back and kicking. I'll be back in Nashville Monday. That's going to do it for us. We are out of here. ESPN Radio is coming up next. Caroline, have a great weekend. Ian, have a great weekend. Everybody have a great weekend.